The man starts by explaining that the undead are those who can't die even after dying. They're immortals who have escaped the cycle of life and death. Dominating a single dimension wasn't difficult. Obtaining the dimension called Earth was only a matter of time, or so they thought. We see one of the Skelly brothers asking how this could be, pointing at someone in a fire, wondering how a mere human is still alive. We hear the man say, "Who knows?" as he continues walking forward, while on fire, saying it's probably because he's sturdier than they are, as his skin starts to peel off. He instantly goes in for a punch on one of the Skelly brothers, shattering him. It jumps back to 2 years ago, as we hear a woman saying she can't do this anymore. She let him live here because he said he was job hunting, but all he does is spend every waking hour drinking and playing games. She tells him if he's going to be like this, he should just go back to their mom and dad. The man says he can't rely on their parents at this age. We learn that it's his younger sister, and she asks how relying on her is okay. She tells him that he has an allowance and that tomorrow is the new year, so he should get a part-time job or something. The man says okay, and that they should leave this till tomorrow, as his head is still spinning. He closes the door as she keeps screaming, and he lets out a sigh, then plops onto the bed. We learn that his name is Kangun. He calls himself pathetic, asking why he's living like this. The only thing he's done after coming to Seoul was getting a short internship at a major corporation, and he should find some kind of labor job soon. He looks up at his desk, realizing he forgot to turn off his monitor before he left. The man says that life would be much better if it were a video game. Then he could probably find a pretty good job like a warrior, wizard, or swordsman. Then he passes out. Some status windows begin to appear, saying they detected a general connection from the dimension, but connection is temporarily denied. The tutorial will now begin on Earth. Yoon jolts awake after feeling something, looking around to see he's in a white room, wondering what's going on. He sees a status window in front of him that says the time until complete connection with the Hen dimension will be 4 years and 364 days, pretty much 5 years. They welcome him to the tutorial, saying it has a total of 8 stages. He starts reading, and it says that death in this place is not connected to reality, and he is unable to give up halfway. If he fails, he cannot try again. When the tutorial is cleared, an awakening and a reward will be given. He's surprised and begins to sweat nervously as his heart starts racing. He says this is a dream. Only severe gaming addicts end up having this. He starts apologizing to his parents and his sister, who we learn is named Hyun. He says he'll find a job, but for now, he doesn't care since this is a dream, and maybe this is a sign from Lord to go all out one last time. The one more game mindset has been activated. The first stage is about to begin, and the status window says they pray that his courage can save Earth. This catches Yun off guard, and he wonders what this means, staring at it blankly. The first stage is that he must prove his courage and defeat what he fears the most. He has to reach a specific destination at the end of a bridge, and if he fails, it will be death. He wonders what bridge they are talking about, and suddenly he's transported. He sees lava below him as he has to walk across makeshift bridges to get across. Yun wonders why the heat feels so real, and who all these other people are and what's going on. The other people say they were definitely in their homes. He asks what kind of stupid dream this is, then hears his sister and looks over, seeing her standing there with tears in her eyes. He asks why the hell she's in his dream, saying this is ridiculous. She tells him that's her line. She wonders if this is truly her dream in the first place, talking about saving the Earth or whatever. He calls out to her, telling her not to act like this is hers because it is his. She barks back at him, asking if that's important and how it could be this hot inside a dream, and if it's even possible to have natural conversations in a dream. He laughs, saying his brain is easily tricked. People always say they can't feel pain in their dreams, but that's Les had experiences where it felt like he was pissing for real, only to wake up relieved that his blanket was safe. She sarcastically says, "Good job, for saying something embarrassing in front of your sister." He tells her that he's going first, and she asks where. He reminds her that the status window said to reach the bridge at the end, asking if she didn't see it, but then he says that since it's his dream, an NPC like her wouldn't know. She gets angry, saying she saw it as well, and asks if he's not worried about falling. He asks if she's stupid, saying that this is a dream, and he'll wake up if he dies. As he says this, he sees a man falling past him. He watches as the man falls straight into the lava, and the man begins to scream as he burns alive. The smell of his burning flesh fills their noses, and they both look down at him, sweating nervously. An asks him what he was saying a second ago. He starts to shake, saying the screams just sound a little realistic, and he's not scared at all. She calls him pitiful and sighs, telling him not to do anything stupid. If he's going to move, don't walk. It's probably safer to crawl. He says that he's not scared at all, but now that she's mentioned it, it makes sense. She sighs, saying he's keeping it up until the end. Other people start to move forward, as we see him and his sister crawling along the bridge. She calls out to him, asking what he thinks happened to them and if he has any ideas. He tells her it's just a very realistic nightmare, and she asks why he's still caught up on that, saying he's probably already realized this is not a dream. There's no way it would be this realistic, and something is definitely happening that they can't even begin to imagine. She says that if they die here, maybe even in real life they'll die as well. He begins to laugh, saying he was trying his best to ignore it, so why did she bring it up now? He's frozen in fear. She calls him the most unreliable older brother in the world. He lays down, telling her he wants to rest a little before continuing, and that he can't crawl anymore because his hands and legs are shaking. She asks if he's just going to lay there, and he reminds her there's still a possibility this is all a dream. He says maybe, if he stays still like this, he'll wake up on his own. A status window appears in front of both of them, saying that due to a certain amount of time passing since the start of the tutorial, the difficulty is now increasing. They wonder what's happening as the entire area begins to shake, and the bridge starts to slowly collapse behind them. People start running, some falling off, and they realize now is not the time to stay still. Yoon tells An to wait for him as he starts hauling absolute cheeks. He sweats heavily, saying it's okay as the bridge isn't too narrow, and if he doesn't trip, he'll reach the end. He just needs to look ahead and follow his path. They continue running, and he grows more desperate. He finally sees the end, saying that with this, it'll all be over. He looks to his left and sees the bridge above his sister starting to collapse. He yells at her. She looks up, surprised. Realizing he needs to act fast, he leaps across, landing on her bridge just as the rocks begin to fall. He grabs her and dashes forward, narrowly escaping before her bridge collapses into the lava, dissolving into nothingness. The status window pops up again, saying he's leveled up and congratulating him on clearing stage 1. He has temporarily awakened as his clear reward, and will officially wake up when the tutorial is over. He lays down, gasping, saying he can't even move anymore. Hyun thinks about the wording and wonders if there's more. She thanks him, and her status window opens, showing her stats. She wonders what level strength and agility mean. Yoon jokes that this is the #1 thing a guy wants to receive for his birthday. He struggles to sit up, saying he needs to check his stats too. We learn his innate ability is called Resurrection, but he has no actual abilities or skills. He fights to stay sitting up, suddenly leaping awake, screaming in his bed, gasping for air, sweating nervously, and thinking surely that was a dream, right? We see someone sending a text about having a weird dream, and it turns out a lot of other people had the same thing. They fell and died but woke up. Someone makes a Reddit post, another makes a Facebook post, and it's all over the news. We see a familiar guy posing for a hashtag Save the World challenge while the time limit is shown again about the Hain dimension. Both Yun and his sister start yelling each other's names as they open their doors and run outside. They talk about the dream, asking if they really shared the same one, cutting each other off until Hyun yells at him to shut the hell up. He tells her to stop interrupting him, and then they sit there in awkward silence until their stomachs rumble. They decide to set it aside for now since the best thing to do is eat. As they eat, they stare at their phones, seeing that all the trending topics are about the dream. Hyun says it really wasn't just a dream, and it wasn't just Korea looks like the whole world had the same dream. Yun wonders if it's really happening. He notes that dying in the dream didn't seem to affect reality. It says 3 or 4 out of every 10 fell, but none died. Hyun shakes her head, saying it was still too vivid, and bets that falling from that height would have hurt a lot, and that some people are suffering from PTSD. He continues eating, and she questions if it's really okay for them to eat so peacefully while everyone outside is going wild. He keeps eating, thinking about it, then puts his utensils down, telling her there's nothing they can do right now, so they should just eat. He walks over to the window, moving the curtain, and asks her if she really plans to get mixed up in all this. They see looters going crazy, along with doomsdayers holding signs that say the time of judgment has come. Everyone seems to have lost their minds. Hyun says she should probably skip work today. He asks if she's seriously considering that, pointing out that if they go out, they'll only get hurt. She should remember the connection to the Haken dimension. She says when the status window popped up, she didn't get a good chance to check it, but mentions they could see how much time they have left. She opens it to check the time, and Yoon says he missed the status window too, wondering why he can't just open it now. They don't know what it's about, but they see there's about 5 years left. They wonder if they can really prepare in 5 years if the world is like this. Even if it's a mess right now, things will surely calm down, and it's best to stay safe at home. Hyun is surprised he's making sense, thinking he's usually dumb. Aside from the morning confusion, nothing else of note happened. By evening, most people had returned to their usual routines, and South Korea had quieted down again in a single day, marking the end of the first day. We see Yoon closing his eyes as he opens the status window, welcoming him to the tutorial. It asks if he needs a basic explanation on how to use the interface, but he says no, he just wants to see his status window. He looks at it, wondering if his stats are good since he has no baseline for comparison. He notices the magic power stat, implying they'll be using magic, and he's not sure if that's a good thing. He focuses on his innate ability called Resurrection, and thinks it sounds like a cheat skill. This ability lets him resurrect 24 hours after dying, and if he doesn't choose a location, he'll revive at the last place he slept. The penalty for using Resurrection is that his level decreases by 1, and his ability stats temporarily drop by 50% for a day. These penalties don't apply during the tutorial. Yoon gets excited, saying there's no way he would end up as a useless extra. The tutorial asks if he'd like to enter stage 2. He says of course, whether his stats are high or low, he can fix them after leveling up since he's the amazing Resurrection Man and can do anything. Up until now, he felt blissful, not even imagining what was coming next. We see a bloody mace as a goblin screeches, and Yun screams as he fights it off. He swings at the goblin, knocking its weapon away. Stage 2 is about defeating every enemy and improving his strength. He raises the mace over his head, saying the system is basically the same as the games he's played, so he knew there would be fighting involved. He smacks the goblin's skull in and starts panting, exhausted. Yun says that even though he managed to kill it with his mace by ambushing it, his whole body feels numb from the sensation of hitting it. He feels guilty for killing it, making him feel like he's about to puke. He only beat it because it was a goblin. If he hadn't ambushed it, it could have been him instead. Just then, he sees something around the corner and instantly gets scared. Gripping his weapon tightly, he spots another goblin behind him, a goblin soldier, and it growls menacingly with a purple aura around its blade. Yun didn't realize there were two from the start and says goblins are supposed to be low-level mobs for beginners, but this one is way bigger than the last. The sword it's carrying is over a meter long. Getting hit with that would mean he's 100% dead. The goblin screeches in pure anger and swings at Yun, knocking his mace backward, since he's never worked out and stayed home all day. Combined with the fact that his mace is short compared to the goblin's blade, it easily overpowers him, slicing him multiple times. It jumps toward him, tears rolling down its face, and he wonders what's happening and why he has to go through this. As we see, the goblin is dragging him away, leaving a snail trail of blood. He wonders why he's not dying and when this dream will end, hoping that somebody can save him. Yun says that he always found it hard to understand how much blood a person has. Only by watching his own trail of blood did he feel the steadily approaching fear of death coldly tightening around his neck. While suffering hell in the few hours before his life ended, he was subjected to savage torture by 4 goblins. We hear him screaming as Hyun wakes up from it and bursts into his room, asking why he's messing around so early in the morning. Then she looks over and spots him, completely fear-ridden in bed, biting his thumb while shaking. And later, he tells his sister what happened, and she asks if he's saying he died from extreme blood loss. He says yes, that they pulled his fingers and toenails out one by one, stomping on them. He goes to continue, but she tells him to stop, saying that even though she died too, it wasn't as bad as that. She then asks him why he was screaming. He tells her that if she experienced it herself, she'd see what he's going through, and he's pretty sure even Gu would cry about this. She says she gets it and asks if he needs to go to the hospital. He asks why, and she says that it seems psychiatric visits have jumped up a lot over the past 2 days, and it looks like there are a whole lot of people who have gone through something similar. He thinks about it, saying he doesn't think it's that bad, and he doesn't have the money to go anyway. She then tells him there's some good news. It looks like if you die, the tutorial ends. The people who died in stage 1 didn't end up dreaming of stage 2. He sighs in relief, saying he's glad to hear that, which means he can sleep peacefully tonight. Of course, he goes to sleep and wakes up to the entry into the tutorial, making a shocked face due to his resurrection skill. He's back in there. He grits his teeth and starts screaming, saying this is, and wondering why it's happening to him since he's in the tutorial. There's no penalty for resurrection. Sitting in a cave, he sighs, saying that he just stared ahead blankly, took a nap, then stared some more. He assumed that if he just put up with it for a few hours, he would wake up, but there was no sign of that happening. He starts to get up, saying he's getting quite hungry. He heads toward the door, remembering that last time he picked the mace because he thought it would be powerful or easy to use. But this time, since he's scared of getting close to anything, he wants to go with a bow or a crossbow. Compared to shorter range weapons like a sword, a spear does seem better, so he picks out a crossbow and a spear, saying it's time to show them the shooting power of the Korean Reserve Army. Backshots would sound like World War II. We see him aiming down the sight as he fires a shot, pulling a trump shooter. Yoon is surprised as the angry goblin soldier turns back, glaring at him while drooling from the mouth. He realizes it was too hopeful of him to try and use a weapon he's never used before. They start charging at him, and he screams as he rushes forward with his spear. He avoids the goblin soldier and goes for the smaller one, instantly piercing its chest, saying he's got it, and with this, at least one is dead. He turns to face the other, but quickly realizes he can't pull the spear out from the smaller goblin. He looks to his right as the goblin soldier leaps at him with its sword overhead, killing him. He wakes up screaming once more, gasping out, saying at least this time he died immediately. A death without torture feels nice. The next day, we see the tutorial screen again, and he flips it off, saying he doesn't want to do this for round 3. He goes with a sword and shield. Maybe you're wondering why he's using a new weapon. We learned that he spent the entire day studying how to use the sword. So he stands in front of the goblins, feeling confident this time due to all the videos he watched, only to wake up again as they rock his. He starts laughing maniacally, saying they're definitely asking for it, and he mutters to himself that he's going to kill them while Hyun watches from the doorway, concerned. The next night, the window appears again, marking round 4. To start off, he just blindly swings his sword. Why, you ask? This is the game-breaking formula for the status window. We see that through his efforts, he has surpassed his limits, and his vitality has increased by 1. He sighs and falls to the floor, asking if it really took 8 hours to raise his stat by just 1. He notices that the additional skills are set to 1, and recalls that he got that point when he passed stage 1. He wonders why he forgot, then inhales some copium, blaming it on being so out of it that he forgot, and not on him being dumb. He decides to invest a point in his strength. Now having raised his ability points by 2, it's time for some revenge on the goblins. That's what he he expected at least, but due to all the training, he was so tired that he couldn't even kill the little one and died instantly in round 5. He raised his vitality by 1 once more, swinging the sword around in round 6. He spent 10 hours training to get his strength up, and now he can easily take out the 2 goblins in the front. But due to his fundamental lack of physical abilities and combat skills, it still wasn't enough to face off against the rest. We're now in round 7 where he just swings his sword again and again, hoping for something. We see him gain 1 vitality point, completely drenched in sweat. He falls to the floor, dropping the sword as he pants heavily. He looks up at the status window, and it says that his swordsmanship ability has increased to the lowest rank possible, which is F. He looks at it, wondering if his eyes are deceiving him, but he reads the entire thing, then clenches his fist and starts screaming, saying he actually did it. He grabs his blade again, hyping himself up, saying that today he will actually kill all of the goblins. There were 5 goblins total in the second stage of the tutorial. 2 were in the front of the castle and 3 were in the forest. In the end, the first 2 were really easy. He could take them out by ambushing the first with a crossbow and finishing the second with his sword. The issue was with the 3 goblins in the forest. He can handle 2 of them in the same way as before, but the last goblin is a whole different story. Sparks fly as his sword hits its axe, and they start trading blow for blow in the middle of the woods. The goblin rears his hand back, swinging onto Yun's shield. He says that he can see the attack's path and starts to parry each and every one of the attacks, claiming that it feels like his body is reacting before he can even think. He readies his blade, thrusting it towards the goblin's throat, saying that this is the effect of the lowest ranked sword mastery. He hits the goblin, barely scraping its cheek, but the problem is he's already exhausted his vitality fighting the other 4. The goblin dual grips his axe. As sparks fly again, it knocks Yun's sword far away, as the difference in vitality is too great. The goblin goes for a home run swing, and Yun notices it but smirks as he dodges, like in the Matrix. The goblin is surprised by the dodge, and Yun explains the fact that it really enjoys torturing people, and because of that, instead of killing you immediately, it will knock you down and save its strength for the final blow. He starts to pivot on his foot, saying that its pattern is too obvious, while he kicks some dirt up into its face, blinding it, causing it to flail wildly. Yun grabs onto a rock, getting in close to its leg, and starts smashing its knee. The goblin screams in pain, flailing wildly, as Yun quickly runs up behind it, shouting. The goblin finally realizes where it is just as Yun yells that he's stronger, and it sees a rock flying towards its face. The rock smacks it right in the head, causing it to topple to the ground. Yun thinks he just figured out the goblin's level. Panting, he expresses how boring it was. He felt like dying. A status window pops up, announcing that he cleared stage 2 and earned 5 additional stats as a reward. He can pick a weapon to take with him, and he starts losing his mind with excitement. He notices he's unlocked the lowest ranks of shield mastery and crossbow mastery, and yells that he's actually leveled up 2 more times, calling the goblin a subhuman piece of. He laughs as the night continues. But suddenly he snaps back to reality, turning into a pixel art monkey, proclaiming it's a strong good morning. While working in the kitchen and singing to celebrate clearing stage 2, he decides to make breakfast. He tastes it and, despite having made it himself, says it tastes perfect. Then he hears a loud rumble that startles him, and a Hyun runs out of a room, asking what that sound was. A status window informs them the world tutorial has ended, and they can now freely use the system outside of the tutorial. They both see windows in front of them and rush outside, where another notice says dungeons are now activated. They look down in horror at a gate in the middle of the street, with 2 giant handles and a purple aura. They wonder if this is the entrance to the dungeon. The announcement continues, revealing that only those in the know may enter the dungeons, and if a dungeon isn't cleared within a certain time frame, the gate will, but the statement cuts off, and it's safe to assume the gate will break, unleashing monsters. They realize they have almost 5 years until the connection is completed. Yoon explains that as soon as the dungeon's activated, the world fell into greater chaos than on the first day they decided to stay inside and search for information. He notes, it seems the tutorial isn't completely over, with a message saying those who recently celebrated their birthdays can now participate and you need to be at least 16. Ahyun tells him there's lots of chatter about dungeons in the comments, urging those who passed the tutorial and the so-called talents to hurry up and clear the dungeons. Yoon retorts that it's not their concern, then focuses on something interesting since they can now see real-life status windows. He declares this is the most important thing, shouting, "Status window." Ahyun stares at him, cringing inside. A new window opens, stating that since the tutorial still technically continues, this cannot be used. He responds that since there are 8 stages in the tutorial, and he repeated stage 2 7 times, everyone else must have already finished. He sighs, realizing there's nothing he can do now but clear everything, and asks if there's info about stage 3. Ahyun shares that the theme is patience, and that's all she could find since few have cleared stage 2, leading to a lack of reliable information. He concludes he'll just have to work through it. He asserts he's grown way stronger since his earlier attempts and is sure he'll clear stage 3. That night, in the tutorial, there's a golden liquid as a monster sings. We learn he's actually getting R. Kelly from the monster while holding back his rage. Background info reveals Stage 3 requires him to prove his persistence and tenacity in any situation. The condition for clearing is to defeat the Gorka chief. If he waits, an opportunity will present itself. He notices he's equipped with a ghillie suit, remarking these clothes always excite men. This mission must be about infiltration and assassination. He wonders what a Gorka is since he has never heard of such a monster before. Deciding his first order of business is to find them. He checks his Stage 2 rewards, opening his status window to see he's now level 4, with all his stats boosted a bit. He claims this is how a status window should work, noting his new shield and crossbow abilities, though the low-rank mastery descriptions annoy him. He allocates his extra skill points to strength and vitality, also putting a bit into agility. He gets lost in thought, realizing there was one more thing, but can't recall what it was. The window prompts him to check his inventory, and he remembers he opens it to discover a sword, taps on it, and draws the blade from the window, laughing at how cool it is. Now that he's done checking everything, he focuses on finding the Gorkas. He starts to explain to us about Carlos Hathcock, the legendary American Marine sniper, who crawled 1.4 kilometers to assassinate a general. He respects him a lot. Having crawled for about 10 hours, he contemplates how close he is, spotting 2 guards on duty and wondering if he'll have to force his way through. His pants, soaked in his own piss from trying to imitate Bear Grylls, are itchy with grass and bugs stuck to him. Suddenly, a shadow looms overhead, and he looks up to see one of the Gorkas staring down at him. He fears he's been discovered, but quickly realizes that's not the case. Sitting there, he tells himself to bear it, needing to prove his persistence and tenacity. He mutters those words to keep from snapping, but it doesn't work. His sanity shatters, and he screams he's going to cut it off, charging at the Gorka and stabbing it where no man should ever be injured. I genuinely feel bad for that Gorka. Can we get an F in the chat for our boy? Its corpse drops to the ground as Yoon laughs, saying he just cut off something useless. The other Gorka stares at him, then starts mumbling, which escalates into a scream that echoes throughout the camp. Gorkas from all around start rushing out with torches, surrounding Yun. He laughs and decides since he's already screwed, he might as well yell out something he's always wanted to say. He shouts that he's going to rock their. As a result, the skill Raging Lion Roar is created. Blood starts flying as we see a Gorka's head fly through the air, and he jumps to the second round, screaming, "Bring it on!" without even wearing the ghillie suit. We find out Lion's Roar reduces the morale and stats of nearby enemies, while also removing any debuffs. He realizes something after crawling for 10 hours in round 1, charging straight through the main gate of the camp. He mentions the Gorka warriors leave during the day to hunt, returning only when the sun goes down, meaning the camp is at its weakest during the day, and those left behind are unable to fight. We see him taking down 3 Goras in an instant as he heads for the chief's tent. He slips through the doorway, announcing his arrival, but is taken aback by a couple of purple lights and the Goro chief seated on his throne. The chief points at Yun, and the 2 shamans beside him begin to cast their magic. We watch as Yun is completely frozen, immobilized by a low-rank magic skill. He wonders why the tutorial included this, and thinks there's no way to break free, but then he remembers Lion's Roar removes all debuffs, so he takes a deep breath and shouts. Low-key he's surprised, but it scares the Goro chief, freeing Yun. He charges forward, leaping through the air with his sword, proclaiming that everyone has a plan until they get hit by a sword. He slices down, killing the chief. Now he's cleared stage 3 and has been rewarded with intermediate rank body regeneration. Because he speedran it, he's also received the title Impatient One, and he levels up, learning that the title gives him an extra point to all his stats. He exclaims he broke through stage 3 in just one day, considering it took him a week to get through stage 2. This is a huge improvement, and he concludes he might be insanely talented. At this rate, he might even break through stage 4 in just a few minutes. He starts painting himself as the protagonist of a story, standing atop a dragon. We time skip a month since that thought, and it has been 25 days since specially formed squads of Awakeners were sent to clear dungeons. 40% of all discovered dungeons have been cleared as civilian Awakeners raid and steadily advance. The government will be offering rewards from now on. We hear Yoon scream, and a Hun comments that he's back at it again, knowing the neighbors will complain if he keeps it up. She asks if he got hit in the back of the head with an arrow today, and he comes out of the room saying he cleared it and just went in and wrecked everyone. She tells him it's time to eat and expects another fit from him. She's completely surprised when she goes to congratulate him and asks if something happened in his dream. We see him towering above her, and she comments that his face looks weird, asking why he looks so angry. He replies that the tutorial bastards are pissing him off. She tells him to lighten up a little, saying he looks like a complete criminal these days. He asks what she just said, telling her she shouldn't say that stuff to her brother. She asks about the concept of stage 4, reminding him he's freeloading in her house. He explains that it's a group project, forcing them to prove leadership, with the clear condition being to remove the dungeon core. He adds a tip, saying it's best to escape without leaving anyone behind. It felt like roleplay, with party members being NPCs fitting into the setting, arguing about whether to keep going or retreat when they didn't have enough rations. A couple of them rejected the idea pretty strongly, but ultimately they agreed to clear the dungeon. She asks what's wrong, and he says that at first, he thought he was being pretty cool while carrying them. He raised their morale using Lion's Roar, and thanks to the recovery ability from clearing stage 3, he stood on the front lines. The skill uses magic power to recover and regenerate his body regardless of wounds. She asks if everything is fine, pointing out the problem that made it take him a month to finish. He lets out an angry sigh, saying it all started that night. We see the others standing behind him while he sleeps, holding a knife. He recalls that those bastards didn't go on night watch like he told them to, and when he caught them trying to run away, they ambushed and killed him. He knew right away they'd do something like this. She tells him to swallow everything before he talks, calling him a jerk. He swallows his food, saying every attempt to get to the dungeon was a failure, composed of similar people in terrible situations. In that scenario, he had to use his brilliant mind to find a way through. She asks what he meant, and he puts his chopsticks down laughing, saying he just needed to beat up all the bastards who got in his way before clearing it. In the final round of the 4th stage, one of the men says they should go further because it'd be a waste to head back empty-handed after coming all this way. Another tells him they don't have enough food, asking what they'll do if they can't find the core and suggesting that mana stones will still be profitable. Yoon gets angry, telling them to shut up and uses his lion's roar. One of them covers her ears, questioning what he thinks he's doing. Yun points his blade at her, stating that everyone must follow his words from now on, and if they refuse, they'll die. If they talk back, they'll die too. Bullcut McGee asks if he's insane, but instantly gets hit in the face. Yun grabs his shirt to keep him from falling and beats him up, telling him not to talk back. As his face swells and he cries, his girlfriend looks worried. Yun asserts they just need to follow him because he knows the way, warning that if they talk back again, he will kill them. We see his stats have actually increased significantly. A skeleton leaps at him, but he grabs its blade, pulling it close while rearing his fist back and slamming the hilt into its skull, cracking it. He declares that's the last one. As they all watch in amazement, killed all the mobs himself. Their corpses litter the room, and he looks at the dungeon core, thinking maybe they just need to break its supports. He swings his sword, doing exactly that. A status window appears congratulating him for clearing stage 4, and he receives the skill Cleave as a reward. He also gets the Ring of Strength and Mind, ranked B, and levels up. Looking at the results, he finds his gains from stage 4 aren't bad at all. He doesn't need to say anything about his rapidly growing stats, and can farm item drops from monsters too. Among them, he still doesn't know what the Mona Stones are for, but he has the Skeleton Soldier's Mona Stone and the Skeleton Knight's Mona Stone, thinking they will definitely be useful later on. The Cleave skill is just as it sounds. It cleaves. The Strength and Mind Ring makes him immune to all mind, type magic and mental status conditions of rank A or below. He notes that his rewards are incredible, with sweat dripping from his forehead as he claims his biggest gain is that he got really strong in real life too. We see him doing 300 one-arm push-ups, getting jacked on trenbolone sandwiches. He says that exercising his body without weights hasn't been cutting it anymore, and maybe he should hit the gym. His phone rings, and he wonders if it's an ad, but then he sees it's an alert message, indicating a dungeon has opened and tells all citizens to stay inside. Screams echo as people desperately beg for safety, while goblins smash through a window, and others are brutally murdered in the streets as they flee in terror. Yoon looks outside, wondering how long it's been since he requested that the area be cleared. He mutters that at this rate, someone's going to end up in serious danger. He rushes around the apartment, searching for anything he can use as a weapon, baffled that he can't even find a sword. Then he spots his kitchen knife in the sink. Outside, we hear him sprinting at full speed, taking a deep breath as he yells, "It's been a while, you bastards." The goblins turn toward him, and he clicks his tongue, realizing he still can't utilize his skills. But thanks to that, he has their attention now. They charge at him, chattering in Goblin, and he shouts back that he can't hear them properly because they're just stage 2 small fries. Although he doubts they're on the same level as those from the tutorial, he can tell how strong they are just by their movements. He drives the knife straight through one's head, leaving it sticking out from the top of its skull. He thanks it for coming to him first, tosses the corpse to the floor, and grabs its sword, announcing he'll put it to good use. He jumps to an office building where the doors are barricaded, and goblins are trying to break in. Inside, everyone is on edge. A Hun works here and looks down at her phone, wondering what Yun is thinking. As screams rise outside, something is fighting them, getting closer to the door while the barricades begin to topple over. A bloodied flip-flop lands on top of some file cabinets, and we hear Yun saying he accidentally broke it. He walks in, waving at a Hun, announcing he's here, and she gets embarrassed as the others in the office wonder who he is. She asks about his bloody getup, when a man shouts angrily at him. Yun, confused, hears the guy say he doesn't know who Yun is, but how dare he destroy their barricade like that. At this rate, the monster will get in. A Hun tells him it's her department chief. Yun apologizes, saying he can't control his strength, but it's not like they have to worry about monsters anymore since he tells them to look behind. All they see are corpses, and they're shocked that he took down that many alone. He gestures to the weapons on the floor, urging them to pick one up and hold on to it for a bit. He's unsure how many stages they've cleared, but insists that as long as they don't panic, even normal people can handle one goblin. He starts to turn around, and a Hun yells, asking where he's going. He tells her that he saw goblins everywhere on his way here, and is pretty sure the upper floors are full too. Even if it's just a few, he'd rather get a good night's sleep tonight. And time jumps to later as water is poured over his wounds. He asks a Hun if it's really okay to waste water like this since they don't know how long they'll be stuck here. She tells him to shut up, insisting they at least have to treat it, and it's saline solution anyway. She sighs, noting he's acting tough while still running around getting hit a lot. He mentions that he hasn't practiced dodging recently, but his regeneration skill is solid, so he usually can take most blows. Since he can't use his skills, it might not be effective. She advises him to be careful, pointing out that if he can't use his skills, it means he can't resurrect either. His claim that he'd take care of the rest of the monsters in the building was a bit much. He smirks, saying it was kind of cool though, right? She sighs, saying he deserves getting beaten up, even though everyone else seems to view him differently. One of her senior colleagues was trying to get her to introduce him, wondering if he's her type. He blushes, thinking about it, and says if she's okay with a guy who curses a lot, then sure. The scene shifts to that night, where he opens his eyes to the status window, realizing he forgot about it while focusing on the day. Stage 5 is starting, and he must prove he has the wisdom to overcome any difficulty. He hears people chatting about a succubus, noting that in situations like this, those who talk the most are usually suspicious. One girl tries to calm the situation, and he wonders what's going on as everyone converses. The clear condition is to defeat a succubus, a nightmare demon disguised as a human. He thinks about how, in stories, they often appear in men's dreams, sucking out energy, usually taking the form of gorgeous women. The problem is, all the women here are stunning, and he wonders if it was done on purpose. One girl asks what he thinks, pressing him to guess who he thinks the succubus is, and he stammers that she's even prettier up close, while something smells amazing. He nervously averts his gaze, unsure, when he notices a window appear that says the ring of strength and mind has resisted the seduction attempt. Of course, if he remembers, wearing the ring grants immunity to all mind-type magic. As nighttime settles in, he sits by the campfire, reflecting that in Stage 1, it was a hellfire circus. Stage 2 was a week-long desperate scramble against goblins, and in Stage 3, he was peed on after crawling for hours. Stage 4 dragged on for a month. During those times, he was just rolling around like a dog, but now he finally sees an opportunity for an easy victory. He apologizes for cursing at Lord before, saying it's clear now it truly is part of Lord's plan. He covers his smile, recalling he was warned he would become a target if he figured out her identity. Even if he does know, it's not over yet. He's not entirely sure, but she should be strong, especially if she can transform into a human. Instead of acting rashly, he should first win over the other NPCs, since the guys might be under her spell. He assures them he has no ulterior motive, but we all know he's lying. He decides to sleep on it, only to wake up to an unfamiliar ceiling. Confused, he remembers he's with a Hun. Some co-workers are relieved he's awake, saying they were about to rouse him when the army arrived. Outside, he watches as army trucks unload their troops, who immediately start firing at the goblins. Yun's fists clench as he realizes the succubus probably recognized him and offed him in his sleep. He asks the others who they said came, peering outside to see a horde of army trucks. The soldiers jump from their vehicles, unloading their weapons on the goblins. Surprised to see the army actually showed up, Yun hears the others say the monsters are no match for the guns. He thinks it's all over now, but a chill runs down his spine as he senses something is off, feeling a looming danger. He notices the soldiers reloading and realizes it's never ending. A wave of tension fills the air as they start trash-talking each other. Just a friendly army banner shows one of the men blasting a red goblin that's walking forward, tanking the shots and lobbing its head off. They immediately scramble to return fire to avenge their fallen comrade. One guy yells, "It killed the whole platoon." They're puzzled about what the goblin's deal is, just as they see it get shot in the head, and yet it just shakes it off like it's nothing. As their bullets have zero effect, the beast starts screaming and charges directly at them. They're freaking out, yelling for the driver to give it all gas. No brakes. The driver floors it, but the goblin crouches and leaps into the air, catching up to the truck. They look up to see its shadow looming, and then everything goes dark as they start screaming. The truck's weight shifts, causing the driver to lose control, colliding into another vehicle. In the back, Yun watches in bewilderment as all their trucks come to a stop. The goblin has decimated the group in the back of the truck. He looks worried. The goblin slowly raises its head while releasing a purple aura. Some soldiers question the situation. One mentions Squad 3 is wiped out. A man asks where their signal guy is because they need to call for reinforcements. We learn his name is Corporal Young Jun. He complains about his head hurting and wonders what happened. They must have been in a car accident. He looks up to see the red goblin licking its lips. "Bro, we better run," he warns his signaler. "Where are the reinforcements?" he asks. Learning they're sending a civilian talented, basically their version of Awakeners, I guess. He can't believe they're sending just one, and says it's driving him nuts. The goblin leaps off the top of the truck, and Jun raises his gun, shouting for it to die, but his gun jams. The goblin gets closer, swinging, but Yun screams while he chucks a piece of concrete at the goblin's face, actually hurting a ton like the bullets. The thing flies across the road and crashes down. Jun is stunned, wondering what just happened. Yun hops up on the truck, asking if everyone's okay, then starts smiling creepily, saying being a soldier in this situation means there are a lot of people counting on him. Jun looks at him with dread, pointing his gun and screaming, "It's a monster!" Yun tells him to chill and put his gun down, insisting he's human. Jun repeats human in disbelief, and Yun asks if he just had a stroke. Jun groans, saying if this is the reinforcement, it seems pretty strong, and then realizes he was caught off guard. Yun claims he basically nearly died, so he gets it. Jun thanks him for the help, but Yoon says he's not here out of some sense of justice or anything. Noticing the goblin getting back up, he realizes that since they made eye contact, it would have come for him after the army was wiped out. It's better to deal with the goblin here than have bystanders around. He tells the soldiers not to fire unless they want to put holes in each other, and asks if they have tear gas or anything. Jun replies they have various weapons and tells them to use those. Jun reminds Yoon that he needs a gas mask, but Yoon yells that there's no time to explain, just warn the others not to shoot, or they'll all die if he doesn't take out the goblin. Jun orders everyone else to put their gas masks on, stay alert, and only fire at monsters that approach, keeping their sights on the center of the road. Yoon approaches the goblin, saying the field is set and he's sorry, but he's holding a serious grudge against Itbro's a racist. Jun pulls the pin on the tear gas and throws it. The goblin catches it and starts flailing as it spreads. Yun yells, whether hobgoblin or regular goblin, they all panic swing crazily. He charges in, figuring deflected bullets must have been new to the goblin. Tears roll down his face as he realizes it's tenacious, but he's probably more accustomed to pain than the goblin is. He swings and knocks the goblin's axe out of its hand, sending it sliding across the road. Proclaiming that now it's disarmed, he can really start hitting it. He lands 6 quick hits, but his hand tingles. Why the hell is it so tough? He keeps beating the hell out of it, telling it to die. Jun observes, astonished at how strong a talented person is, when suddenly a man pipes in, asking what's going on, expressing he doesn't remember any reinforcements besides himself being sent. Jun looks up, locking eyes with the man, noticing Yun's sword is heavily damaged, and he's a bit winded. He calls the goblin a bastard, saying he expected to inflict some injury, but he hasn't hurt it at all, and by now, he's just going to exhaust himself. He wonders if he should go for a joint lock instead, but swinging his sword is all he knows how to do. The man from the truck jumps in, slicing at the goblin with his sword. The goblin screams, but it's unclear if it had any effect. Yun marvels at how fast the guy is, wondering who he is. The man turns back, saying it felt like slicing through a rock. He tells Yoon that no matter how tough it is, it's just the boss mob of an F-rank dungeon, hinting there must be a separate weakness since its defenses are naturally high. Yoon thinks this guy knows some stuff. If he recognizes the dungeon rank still doesn't know who he is. They both charge in, and Yoon asks if he has any other plans. They team up in an Eiffel Tower formation, with the man observing that the goblin doesn't seem to have great stamina, and it must be wearing out. Yoon agrees and wonders what the point of exhausting it is if they can't even hurt it since his sword shatters on impact. Scanning around, he spots the goblin's axe and bolts toward it. The man comments that he's fast, but his attacks are weak and advises him to aim for weak points to draw its attention. Yoon grabs the axe and declares that the only weak spot he recognizes is the eyes, but it's guarding those fiercely. He wonders where else he could strike, speculating that maybe its joints will be easier to penetrate. He shouts in frustration, "I don't know," and lunges the axe toward it. The goblin looks shocked, as does the masked man, as Yoon stabs it in a place that should never be touched directly in the goblin's butt cheeks. Yoon feels a wave of depression and apologizes to the goblin. He reflects on his actions, musing if the anus counts as a vital point. He doubts it would cause instant death, but the decision is made on instinct. His body automatically executes the next move, the sphincter opener 9000, hoisting the goblin into the air and slamming it down onto the ground behind him. The goblin looks like it's in a lot of pain, and Yun yanks the axe out of its butt cheeks, charging straight at it, thinking it can't be that hard to stab it in the mouth. The goblin is still suffering from the forbidden technique, and when Yun plunges the axe into its mouth, blood sprays everywhere. He lets out a long sigh while the gas mask guy watches, impressed and wondering where such a skilled fighter came from and if he's flying solo. Then, Yoon notices a golden window appearing behind the goblin. The status window says it can't check the item information since the tutorial is still going. He shrugs, saying he doesn't know what it's for but might as well take it for now. He adds it's a shame there's no inventory and that the tutorial needs to wrap up quickly. The gas mask guy calls out to him, and Yoon replies that usually items have to be shared, but the guy jumped in midway and took it down solo. He decides to bolt, saying he's got urgent business to take care of, and that the smelly but pretty awesome axe belongs to him. The guy tells him to wait, but Yoon just smiles and says adios. The gas mask man watches him go, sighing and removing his mask, sweating profusely, wondering what Yun's deal is. Several hours later, after defeating the hobgoblin, dusk settles in, and things seem to calm down a bit. Yun walks his sister home through streets that look like something out of an apocalypse movie. The world is chaotic, and they only make it back home after dark. His sister makes a frustrated face and immediately asks Yun if he left the door open. He admits that he probably did. She sighs, annoyed at herself for thinking he had matured, and says they should clean up before eating. She wonders if there's even any food left without worrying about intruders. We see them making some stew and going to town on it. His sister is taken aback by something on the news, yelling that it's insane, and shows him her phone. Yun checks it out and sees a video of himself fighting the Red Goblin. She excitedly says someone filmed it on the street during the company outing yesterday. Yun starts reading the comments, and they begin to go to his head as he muses that it feels pretty good. A Hun makes a face of disgust, saying his face looks really off. He asks her why she keeps picking on his handsome face, but then looks at a comment that says he looks evil, like a violent criminal. He asks if it's really that bad, and she replies that it is, adding that she's been trying to tell him that. Later that night, he heads to bed and tells his sister they're in big trouble. She asks why, and he begs her to turn off the lights. She gets annoyed that he called her for this, saying no. He pleads with her, and she finally says she'll turn it off just this once since he's had a rough couple of days, warning him not to yell in the morning because she'll be too sleepy to wake up. He gives her a thumbs up, assuring her not to worry because the stage is a freebie, and they can grab a beer on him tomorrow while he fills her in on the details. She quips that his confidence is almost like a death flag and doesn't expect much, wishing him luck. Yun lays down, trying to sleep, but can't shake thoughts of the earlier goblin encounter and the gas mask guy's comment about him being strong, mulling over which stage he's cleared. He wasn't supposed to get past the second, but it doesn't matter. He'll clear stage 8 and become stronger than anyone else. As he tries to drift off, he remembers the succubus from yesterday, who was hellaciously cute, and even though she killed him, he's low-key excited to see her again. Down bad in his dreams, he smiles, thinking it's not bad to have a little eye candy, even if it's just the tutorial. He opens his eyes expecting to see the cute girl again, but instead, he's greeted by a nasty, ugly blue demon. Startled, he punches it, shouting that it scared the life out of him. The monster collapses, unconscious, and he wonders what it is, asking if it's a goblin. A status window pops up, telling him he needs to evade the goblin horde and clear the goblin cave, noting their poor eyesight but excellent hearing, and he has to find a way to distract them. He wonders why this is only coming to him now, but more importantly, he grits his teeth and yells, demanding to know why the tutorial content changed. Of course, this escalates with him screaming very loudly in real life, irritating a Hun. It shifts to a PC cafe where a man is getting hit in the face, and we see another one already down. Once he hits the ground, he glances up and asks the guy why someone who hasn't even done the tutorial is stronger than an ability user. The man shrugs, saying nothing much has changed, and there's no point in being stronger if you don't know how to fight. He watches a video of Yun, lamenting that it's unfortunate there are so many interesting ability users out there, licking his lips. Next, it jumps to stage 5. Round 3, with the goal to defeat the doppelganger, a monster that hides among people and eats humans every night. A tip for paladins and mages states they can use a special ability once a day. A crowd surrounds Yun this time, reminding him of trying to find the succubus in the first round, like a game of Mafia in Salem. He thinks about how it's all about proving his wisdom and what he needs to do. Taking a deep breath, he yells, using Lion's Roar, telling everyone to gather around, startling many. They all turn to him as he clears his throat, stating that from now on, anyone who moves is the culprit. At this moment, he forgets that in Mafia games, the chatty ones usually end up dead first. Then he remembers he's never actually won a game of Mafia, which he hadn't anticipated. He debates going to grab something to eat, reflecting on how he hasn't expected to keep failing the same thing for over a month and a half. We hear him asking his sister how she's doing as he pushes his glasses up, declaring that this older brother has smartly been reborn with a whole new look. She's shocked by how awful it is, wondering what the hell she's looking at and why she has to deal with this right after work. He explains he's tried changing his appearance to change his inner self, noting it has been 53 days 53 since he died on this stage, failed 53 times, saying that means he needs to do something. They say he needs to use wisdom to pass, but the content changes each time. Even a member couldn't solve this. She suggests it would be faster to get someone else's brain transplanted into his than for him to get smarter. He's taken aback, admitting he's never thought of that. She calls him dumb for repeating the same thing, and adds that if he has the money to buy a suit, he should use it to soundproof his room, because the lady downstairs installed a subwoofer. He heads back to stage 5 again to prove his wisdom, now finding himself in a cave and wondering if it's a dungeon. He thinks about what kind of horrible mission they've prepped for him this time, surprised to find it perfectly suits him, because the clear condition is merely to beat an F-rank dungeon the tank's hatchery. The system alerts him that the spitting tank guard in the hatchery is level 20, advising him to find its weakness and strategize, with torches available. As we see the spitting tan screaming, he wonders how things can be so simple when all he has to do is kill something. He charges directly at the tanks, claiming he's finally found a solution that even Aristotle would do a backflip over. The tank spits something at him, and Yin asks if spiders usually spit venom. He looks down after it hits his hand, which immediately starts turning a purplish color, and he wonders if it's poison. He mutters this as nothing, then cuts off his own arm to stop the spread. The T screeches in concern, and while it's confused, Yun decides to attack the spitting TX. A window tells him that the clues to the spitting TX's weakness are hidden, but he cuts the spider directly in half anyway, saying he doesn't need that. The spider falls apart as he smashes through with pure force. He declares that weaknesses and clues don't matter as long as you kill them instead of looking for the key. He just decides to break through and get it out of the way. A window appears, congratulating him for clearing stage 5. He will now receive a giant's power, which is a clear reward for him. He looks at his regenerated hand, saying that brains are only for those with bad bodies. The giant's power enhances his muscles with magic and increases his strength by 12 for 10 minutes, which is a 60% strength boost based on his current stats that have increased quite a bit. And it jumps to a school, and someone tells a guy named Quan Minsu to give him a birthday punch. Minsu says to do it later because he's already exhausted from the damn tutorial. The guy asks how stage 1 was, and he replies it was as scary scary as the rumors said, but he still managed to clear it. The problem is what comes next. There are no decent tips from stage 5 onward. His friend informs him that just clearing stage 4 puts you in the top 1%, and they probably keep valuable information tightly guarded among themselves. Minsu notices something, seeing a new update saying someone cleared stage 7 yesterday and is going to challenge stage 8. His friend asks if this is fake, and he starts reading what the guy said. Stage 4's theme is leadership, and you need to subdue all members by strength. Stage 5 is wisdom, and muscle is the highest form of wisdom, so you should increase your strength. Stage 6 was cruelty, where you need to destroy both enemies and allies. Stage 7 is devotion, only destroy enemies. Minsu and his friend laugh, questioning what this is, saying it's clearly just bait. The comments start flaming, claiming it's clearly nonsense. We see that Yoon was the one who did it, and he's furious, saying he went out of his way to share the best tips with them and is angry they're not listening. Ahun asks why he's yelling again, and he tells her to listen. He personally revealed the advanced tutorial strategy, but nobody believes it. She asks why he's so nosy, calling him old. He tells her to wait and see, because once he clears stage 8, he'll become the 3rd tutorial graduate in South Korea, rising to the same level as someone named Han Sen, the guild leader of the Dongan Guild, or even Choi Dong-woo, the president of the Ability Users Alliance. His sister starts to hold back laughter, saying no way he can compare himself to the geniuses who cleared it in one go to those who took over 4 months. He tells her to shut up, saying he cleared stages 6 and 7 in one go. That night, it welcomes him to the tutorial once more, announcing he has completed stage 7, asking if he'd like to enter the final stage 8. He reviews the clear rewards. Stage 6 got him a grade B weapon called Belgon's Logsword, granting him berserker abilities and durability enhancement. Stage 7 granted him Ronald's armor, also rank B, giving him self-repair ability. He thinks if he clears stage 8, he can use these items in reality through his inventory and check the item that dropped from the hobgoblin as well. He doesn't expect to clear stage 8 in one go, but thinks as long as it doesn't take more than a week, he'll be fine. Stage 8 appears, and the window prompts him what his beliefs are. He's confused and thinks about it, but while he's lost in thought, the whole area starts shaking. The space around him cracks along with the floor beneath, startling him. It shatters, causing him to fall through, and he screams while falling into the void. When he opens his eyes again, he's in the middle of a city street. He looks around, wondering what's going on. A woman walks through him, and he wonders if he's in some formless state, saying it's the first time he's seen a city in the tutorial. He wonders if this is Earth, but soon realizes it's not the case, as these people are definitely not human. They're like Mark Zuckerberg's. They live their lives as humans would, the only difference being how they look. He's unsure what to think and spots one who makes eye contact with him. He wonders if maybe this one can see him because they're staring right at him, but when Yoon looks back, he quickly realizes they're not looking at him. A rift opens up, and monsters start pouring out of it. All the citizens panic and scream, running away from the horde of monsters pouring out one after the other. He notes there are monsters he's seen before and some he hasn't. This is on a completely different level compared to the dungeon opening he experienced 2 months ago. Feels like a scene from the apocalypse. He wonders if this is what Earth will look like in 5 years once the Hein dimension connects. That thought makes his heart race, and then a giant shadow looms over him. He looks up to see a colossal entity that has appeared, slowly stretching its hand toward the citizens as they run. Yoon raises his hands to try to block it, but of course, since he's not actually there, the attack just phases through him. A bright light forces him to close his eyes, and when he opens them again, he's back in the dream area. He wonders what that was, as a voice asks him how it felt. We see a formalist approaching him. Yoon lands on the ground and asks if they are a lord or something close. The woman says no, simply stating he can think of her as a kind of dimensional administrator. This stage is a personal interview with her, and he's free to ask anything he's been curious about. It's also a valuable time for her to ask questions. Yoon asks about what he just saw, questioning if this is the fate destined for Earth. She says that depends on what they all do from now on. He tells her he doesn't get it if she's such a great being. Why doesn't she just stop this herself? She reminds him that she's an administrator, not a guardian, and her role is just to maintain balance. The tutorials she provides are the best she can do. Yoon gets annoyed, and she then asks him a question. He tells her to shoot, and she asks what beliefs have guided him, and what he has been living for so far. He questions what kind of crap that is, saying it's a pretty profound question and asks why she's curious. She responds that after observing humans during this event, she became curious all sentient beings are interesting, but humans, especially, so hearing how she describes watching them pisses him off, and he says that he guesses she hasn't observed enough, at least in his circle. No one lives their life thinking about stuff like that. They're just struggling to be a bit happier since the day they were born and surviving day by day. She asks him if there's anything he wants to protect, and he says his bratty little sister and his parents because he has to protect his family. She asks him if he's thought about becoming a hero, and he sighs, saying that after dying a few times, he's come to know his place, and that kind of cool but exhausting job is not for him. She says that from what she's observed, heroes definitely have natural talent, and Yoon is closer to being untalented. Yoon wonders if she's picking a fight with him. She says personally she's a fan of his. Watching him conquer the tutorial was something that filled her with so much fun and excitement that he can't understand. He thinks about it, saying that she must be a sadist or something, but then something crosses his mind and he asks her about the 5th stage where wisdom is the theme, and if the task was meant to change every single time. She doesn't answer and tells him that the time is up. She had fun and congratulates him on clearing stage 8. She tells him that the tutorial is just a facade, as more trials will await him, and whether he wants it or not, she believes that he will become the hero who saves the world. He tells her to wait, saying the 5th stage was definitely her doing, but she congratulates him on graduating, and he screams as he gets sucked out, calling her a son of a. As soon as he leaves, we see her sitting there staring, saying that she looks forward to meeting him again. A window appears saying he is the 61st person to graduate, and he has acquired the title Tutorial Graduate. He says, as expected, stage 5 was her doing. He wakes up trying his hardest to scream, but we see his mouth stuffed with something. He looks down, wondering what it is, and pulls out a smelly sock. Hyun says he's finally awake. She expected him to scream, so she plugged his mouth in advance. He asks if she really had to shove a sock in his mouth, and she says if he's pissed, then just wake up quietly. Judging by the look on his face, she assumes he failed again, and asks how long he thinks it'll take this time. He begins to laugh like an evil anime character, and calls out his status window, which surprises her. He laughs, asking her if she sees the power of her brother, and that he's a capable person now. She says good, it's time for him to go make some money, and mentions she made breakfast for him as a special treat. He says she could at least congratulate him, calling her cold-hearted, and adds that no wonder she doesn't have a boyfriend yet. Then he gets smacked by a spatula, killing him and ending the mana. After eating, the dishes are cleaned and she tells him she's heading out. He says okay while looking at the status window, thinking about something, saying that the title he got after clearing stage 8 gives him +2 to stats, and considering the effect, it's not that great. Then he sees the title option and wonders if titles cannot stack. We see that except for the chosen title, all of their effects are applied at only 50%, and he says as expected, then he should of course apply the tutorial graduate title. You can see he has quite a few abilities compared to when he started, and his stats are much higher. He starts to laugh, saying he's been waiting for this moment, as it is the item he got from the hobgoblin. He opens the box to see a book, saying he can't wait to figure out what mysteries this item holds, and he holds it up yelling, "Reveal your true nature." It's called Magic Explosion, and it's a skill book that allows him to learn the skill. The ability fires a magic orb with explosive power. The atmosphere gets really intense since it's a skill book. He starts shaking, and then screams, saying this is gas. After 4 months of shouting in the open, Yoon finally mastered the art of screaming in silent mode. The status window asks him if he would like to learn the skill, and he says of course. He has now acquired the skill, as the book begins to fade out, and he says this is good. Now he's all done sorting the loot, so he should go apply for admission to the Talent Awaken Abilities training school. I guess they swapped off talented. Might just be a bad translation. Outside, we're introduced to a woman named Pine Hyun, and she is a newly appointed public servant. Her first assignment is at the Awaken Abilities training school, where those who have completed the tutorial or failed and got past stage 1 must pass through to obtain their certification. Her country's training system for awakened abilities is said to have developed rapidly, becoming one of the best in the world, and it's believed this is because a similar system already existed. They may be rookies, but they are still future heroes, and witnessing the start of their journey is incredibly rewarding to Hera, so she thought just a few hours ago. As we see there are tons of people there, she didn't think this many people would show up, and we see her shaking in fear. She says excuse me as she begins to cry while looking up at Yun's evil face, telling him that he doesn't look like his id. She looks down at his id picture, and then back up at his current face, seeing how different it looks, and she screams, thinking he's going to hit her. She starts to break down, asking him why he's doing this to her. He panics, asking her what the problem is. Other people start chatting behind him, wondering what's going on. They wonder if maybe Yoon threatened the woman or something, and one of them starts to record him with his phone. Yoon says he didn't do anything. We hear another man asking if there's a problem. Yoon turns, and we learn the man is named Kimmy Hun. He says the process is moving slowly, asking what's wrong. Then he spots Yoon, and Yoon says that Yoon looks familiar. Yoon says that Ihunk sounds familiar too, and asks to see his thing for a moment. Pine Hyun hands it to him, and he says that Yoon looks quite different from his photo. Yoon explains that his appearance changed because of his skill, but he swears it's really him. If he's still not convinced, he can do a fingerprint or DNA test. Ihunk is surprised, asking him if he's only cleared the tutorial up to stage 5. Yoon says yes, planning to downplay it to keep a low profile. Ihunk says his level is 12 and that's pretty high, asking if he's done legal dungeon raids. Yoon says he lowered it by more than half, but it's still too high, and he admits that he did enter a few times before the law was enacted. Ihunk says he sees and asks what the man's strength is listed as his unique ability. Yoon says it doubles his strength. Ihunk thanks him for his cooperation, saying there's just one more thing. In stage 3, awakened individuals receive a skill. In stage 4, an accessory. And in stage 5, another skill, and he needs to see all those rewards now. Yoon says Ihunk is quite meticulous, and shows him his skills. He says, Alright, here's the skill I got for clearing stage 3. He starts to bite into his arm, ripping off a chunk, which surprises Ehunk, and he holds it so Ah-un can watch, as the wound begins to close itself using magic power. Ehunk says he didn't expect a self-healing skill. Yoon says that for stage 4, he got this ring. I thought it was just bad translation, but he told him it was called man strength, not giant strength. For his unique ability in stage 5, he decides to go with Lion's Roar, saying it's his reward. He asks if it's okay to shout here, and An says, okay. Yun takes a deep breath, and the man from the PC cafe in the crowd recognizes him as the Goblin Slayer. He realizes what's about to happen and quickly covers his ears, while a guy behind him wonders what's going on. Yoon lets out an incredibly loud scream, startling everyone and making their ears hurt. Ehun is taken aback. Yoon clears his throat and asks if that's good enough. Ehun says yes, and tells Yun to please head to the first floor of the adjacent Gunmo building. The blonde guy lets out a sigh and starts blushing while smiling because he has found Yun. Yun reflects on how he was almost denied entry because he looked too good compared to his id photo. After drawing everyone's attention with his fierce roar, he realizes he's now in class. People whisper, asking if that's him, and say he yelled so loudly that a woman fainted. Yoon thinks he seems to have gotten on their bad side, but decides it doesn't really matter. The blonde guy behind him stares at the back of his head. On then takes the stage, thanking everyone for waiting and introducing himself. He says he's leading the training at the S-Nom branch of the Ability Users Training School, and it's nice to meet them all. Everyone starts clapping, and he explains that training will consist of 10 days of morning theory classes and afternoon practical sessions, with meals and accommodations provided. If there are no major issues, they should all be able to complete the course safely and obtain their certification. He adds that as they all know, less than half a year has passed since the world changed. Every day, new info about dungeons and monsters comes pouring in, so tactics and strategies are constantly evolving. In other words, what they're about to learn right now isn't the absolute best answer. Yun says he's talking about discouraging things right off the bat. Ehun says there may be incorrect information or information that could soon become useless. That's why he'll only teach essential survival skills, and he looks forward to working with them for the next 10 days. After a bit of time, he says they'll end the first period here and take a 10-minute break before the next period. Everyone talks to each other and gets up, while Yun stares at the ceiling, thinking this is as boring as Reserve Army mental training, wondering why they're doing this for 10 days. A man approaches him, stretches out his hand, and introduces himself as Kwok Sul. Yoon stays quiet, wondering what's up with this muscle pig, but decides to shake his hand. As soon as they shake, Sul smirks and starts to squeeze as hard as he can, telling Yun to take care of him. Sul says that with a guy like this, it's best to put him in his place right from the start. He disliked Yun since the moment he made a fuss over nothing. Sul is surprised and wonders what the hell's up with Yun, who is still holding out. Yun activates his giant's power, which increases his strength, and begins to squeeze back Sul's hand. Sul realizes he's losing, asking how this is possible since he's devoted all his stats to strength. He gets embarrassed, saying everyone is watching and he can't back down looking pathetic. He squeezes as hard as he can, the veins in his arms swelling up and eventually bursting, causing blood to fly across the room and onto both Sul and Yun's faces, as well as some people behind them. The blonde guy is surprised and starts blushing. Again, dudes Afrikas, there's now a pool of Sul's blood on the floor. He lets out a scream, and an ambulance comes to take him away. Yun tries to explain to An that it's true. Muscle Pig came first and asked for a handshake, and as he was puffing up his arms, he suddenly burst. Ehun asks if he's supposed to believe that, and Yun says it's driving him crazy. There's no need to believe it or not. It's simply the truth. Fortunately, his unique ability, Strength of the Strong, increases his strength by 1.5 times, and if he didn't have it, he would have been injured. He tells An to check the game tape. An says he thought it was called Man Strength, and Yun quickly realizes he slipped up, confirming that's right, that's what it's called. An mentions he thought it was 2 times, not 1.5. Yun awkwardly laughs, saying he must have gotten confused since he's not good with numbers. An looks at him suspiciously and then sighs, saying he understands, and to please return to the classroom. Everyone watches as Yun enters and sits down, saying he's exhausted from the first day. The blonde guy then sits beside him and asks if he can sit next to him. Yun says sure, thinking about how he went from a muscle-headed pig to now a thug. The blonde guy introduces himself as An Yong. Yun introduces himself in return, and Yong asks if he can call him brother since he just turned 18 and finished the tutorial. He's a fast learner, graduated from high school already, and tells Yun to talk to him informally too. Yun sighs, thinking he could pass for an older brother based on appearance. Young asks how he did that earlier. Yun asks what he's talking about, and Young mentions the guy's arm exploded, asking if that was a skill. Yun realizes this guy is a freak, and tells him that's not what happened. The pig's arm exploded on its own. Ehun then enters, announcing it's time for the second period, and due to the significant delay, he will focus on explaining the key points. He says dungeons are currently categorized into 2 types, regular dungeons and incomplete dungeons. Regular dungeons are the most common and usually open 4 weeks after their appearance. As they know from experience, dungeon opening refers to when monsters start pouring out. An incomplete dungeon is one whose opening time can't be predicted. It can happen sooner or later than 4 weeks, so constant vigilance is necessary. necessary. Some of them may wonder how to prevent a dungeon from opening, and there are two ways to do this. One way is to destroy the dungeon's core, which would clear it, and the other method is to periodically remove the normal cores to delay the dungeon's opening. However, they must be careful about the order in which they attack the core. A man asks if this is really all the class is about, wondering if there's anything related to dealing with monsters, and saying he didn't come here to listen to this useless lecture. Yoon calls him a musclehead, saying that Muscle Pig from earlier and these other macho types are a problem. Bro forgets he's also a musclehead. One of the workers tries to tell the guy that if he causes trouble, he'll be expelled. But Ihun says it's okay to tell the man to come down. The man looks confused, and Yoon repeats that he's telling him to come down. The man scoffs, suggesting he seems a bit prideful. He steps down and asks what Yoon plans to do, wondering if this is a Batman reference. Yang pulls out his phone, stating, 1 minute. The guy is puzzled, and Ihun explains that starting now, he will only dodge and block his attacks for 1 minute. If the man even grazes him, Ihun will graduate him right then and there. If he fails, he'll be expelled. Ihun asks what he wants to do. Both Yoon and Yang think the muscle man is arrogant and quite annoying, but they smile, thinking it looks fun, so it'll be fine. The muscle man starts to ask Ihun what he takes him for, pulling out his weapon from his inventory and asking if he's sure he won't regret this. One of the workers attempts to warn Ihun that it's a real sword, but Ihun brushes it off, glaring at the man and telling him to start. The man, now getting angry, asks why Ihun is being so arrogant. He squats down and charges directly at Ihun. He swings for an overhead slash, but Ihun sidesteps, saying that attacks made with a warning are pointless. Even if they're not attacking from behind, surprise is key to effective offense. The man gets even more annoyed and swings horizontally, but only cuts through a Hun's afterimage. Ihun appears behind him, stating that the problem with large preparatory movements is that the enemy won't wait for him to attack. The man is furious and continues to swing rapidly, but each time, Yoon uses minimal effort to evade, pointing out that simply swinging the sword isn't enough. The man must be able to observe and understand the opponent's movements without missing a beat. The man screams that this is nonsense and charges at Ihun again, swinging for his head. Ihun ducks under the blow, saying that an all-out attack isn't the best approach, as it undoubtedly makes your movements bigger and openings larger. Ihun then lifts his leg, knocking the man's sword from his hands and into the ceiling. He remarks that if you do that, you'll tire quickly, and it's been over a minute, so time is officially up. The class is surprised. Yun comments that the demonstration felt like watching a professional boxer dodging punches from an ordinary person, but doing that against someone capable is insane. He wonders if there's that much of a difference among superhumans and awakeners. He thinks about the speed and reaction time Ihun just displayed and realizes that even he, with his boosted stats, would struggle in a one-on-one against Ihun. He closes his eyes, starting to smile and laugh, pondering who would win. Young, sitting next to him, also starts laughing and expresses that he wants to fight Ihun. Yun hears him laughing, turns to see his expression, and wonders what's up with him, calling him a freak. It's the pot calling the kettle black, he thinks. Maybe he shouldn't have let this weirdo sit next to him. He doesn't want people to think they're alike. Too late. The curriculum of the Ability Training School consists of theory classes in the morning and practical training in the afternoon. Ihun states that today's practice will focus on weapon techniques and that they should take turns with training weapons. First, they should train in their own way, and the assistant instructors will take turns correcting them. He asks them to understand that one-on-one instruction isn't possible due to a lack of manpower. Yun grabs a nasty-looking blade, saying it's boring. Wai-song suggests that practicing weapon skills sounds dull, and asks Yun if he wants to fight. Yun gets excited, asking if Wai-song is good at fighting, but then Butun interrupts them, saying sparring is prohibited until the 6th day, and Yun clicks his tongue. We see people training with their weapons, swinging them around. Yun watches and realizes he didn't expect much, but everyone is awful. He doesn't really need the practice. He could just swing it around for exercise. He twirls the sword and begins swinging it almost like he's dancing. A Hun turns to watch him as Yun makes extremely rapid cuts in front of him. One instructor tells him he can't do that and needs to work on his stance, saying he should narrow his legs and adjust the angle of his sword. He seems to be showing off a bit, but it's no use. In practice, Yoon is confused, wondering what the guy is saying. He starts to tune him out, grabbing the man's collar and asking if he's that good at fighting. Inquiring if he wants a go at it, that's what he'd like to do. He starts cleaning out his ears, saying okay, and that he's putting up with it because it's a hassle. We hear Ann call out to the man, and we learn his name is Kim Shounen. We'll just call him Instructor 1. He turns to see An, who claps and asks everyone to please pay attention. From now on, there will be a demonstration sparring session between the trainee here and Instructor 1. They're both confused by this. A Hun says that Instructor 1 will follow the guidance he just gave Yun, and Yun will continue to swing his sword as usual. They will have only one exchange of blows. The instructor looks surprised, and Yun seems excited. A Hun counts down to get them ready, saying to go on 3. As soon as he gets to 3, they charge in. Yun pulls his blade back and swings it as Instructor 1 blocks. Yoon then goes for another hit, twisting his wrist, which catches Instructor 1 off guard, knocking his sword from his hands. It flies through the air, and Instructor 1 falls to the floor as his sword lands directly behind him, nearly taking him out. Everyone watches, amazed. A Hun explains that the weapon skills they are training now are preparing them for actual combat, teaching their bodies to respond immediately to attacks. However, as Yoon showed, they must not forget that the most important thing is the ability to react in the moment. They should never think what they're learning now is the right answer. He tells everyone to clap and give a round of applause for their excellent demonstration. Yoon didn't understand a thing. Ihun apologizes to Instructor 1, saying he took on an unfavorable role. Instructor 1 says it's okay, and thanks to him, he learned a lot. As a Hun helps him up, he mentions that Yoon was a little surprising. Ihun apologizes again, saying he really just wanted to check something, which is why he had them spar. We're introduced to Yoon's precious training journal. Day 1, he recaps what happened. The theory lessons were boring, and the practical training wasn't helpful either. Day 2, not much different from yesterday. In the morning, they learned some tactics or whatever, and in the afternoon, more weapons training. Wysong seems really excited, but Yoon thinks he better keep his distance as we see him swinging his sword around like a maniac. Day 3, he explains that the only one who talks to him is still just Yang. He asks how many stages he's cleared. Yang just tells him it's a secret. Instructor 1 tells them not to do what they're doing. On day 4, he feels down, so he draws himself killing a goblin, wielding 2 swords, while Instructor 1 reminds him that each person should only have 1 weapon. On day 5, he's bored and wants to go home. Lying on the floor while Instructor 1 asks him what he's doing, he says he's meditating. By day 6, we see Yun's head down on the table, muttering that this is boring and wondering why us Song doesn't cause some trouble. Yang mentions that he said a while ago they should behave and quietly complete the course. Yun retorts that it's not his problem if he gets kicked out, and Yang responds, "You sure know how to say trashy things so casually," but he doesn't think he needs to worry too much. It's the 6th day, and from now on, they'll have sparring practice in the afternoon. Wysong feels something interesting is about to happen and begins to smile, saying that's what his gut says. Afternoon sparring practice starts. Someone gets their sword knocked out of their hands and falls. As they fight, Ihun announces that Yun wins, and tells the next group to get ready. Wysong comments that Yoon is pretty good at fighting, recalling that he saw him knock out the instructor's weapon before. Yoon downplays it, saying his opponent was just weak. Wysong wonders why he's being humble, and Yoon thinks about how to explain it, noting that overall, the level here isn't that high. He doesn't know much about talent or anything, but thinks most people here can't clear many stages. He notes that the sparring practice will continue until day 8, but wonders if these people really have to keep doing this boring stuff. One participant screams while charging, and the other screams in panic as everyone watches. The man's weapon stops just short of piercing his opponent thanks to Ihun, who announces the winner is Chang Woo. Yoon thinks Yoon is pretty good, and says if he's going to fight, he'd rather take him on. Ihun calls up the next group, and Young stands up, saying he's heading out. Yoon says alright, and Young steps up with a smirk. Yoon starts to get worried, recalling Young saying he feels like something interesting will happen. Still, he reassures himself nothing bad will happen since Yoon is up there too. Young is fighting a woman named Lee Yuri, who is a mage and will use her personal weapon instead of the training one, giving her an advantage due to the spatial disadvantage. Ihun asks Young if he's okay with that, and Yang says sure. Ihun remembers Yang using a sword before, so he asks why he's using a mace now. Yang says there's no rule saying he can only use 1 weapon. Ihun agrees and tells them to get to their sides of the stage and counts to 3 before they can start. Yoon watches as Yang gets ready. As soon as Ihun counts to 3, Yuri summons a bunch of spells and launches them directly at Yang. Yang swings his mace in an X pattern, instantly shattering all her spells and begins to grin. Yoon is surprised, saying it's his first time seeing magic in real life, realizing that means you can learn it based on how well you do in the tutorial. He forgets the skill book he learned and wonders why he didn't see this during weapon training, thinking maybe Yuri trained separately. Yuri makes a strained face, saying damn, as she starts casting her next spell. An even bigger magic crystal forms in the sky above her, and she launches it directly at Yang, who glances over at Ihun. Yang raises his mace as if swinging a bat, then takes a big step forward, swinging at full strength with his usual grin. Yun sits up, surprised, realizing what Yang is going for as he sees Yang twist the trajectory of the magic with his mace, sending it directly at Ihun. As the magic gets closer, Ihun dodges it like he did with the other attacks, but while he's busy, Yang quickly runs over to Yuri, and Yun realizes he's too late. Wysong swings down, and blood splurts everywhere from 3 rapid strikes. Ihun's face is shocked, as is Yun's, as they see Yuri's fingers all broken, while the rest of her body remains out of view. Yang raises his fist, soaked in blood from head to toe, and smiles while blushing at Yun. Yun realizes Yang is way crazier than he originally thought. Ihun immediately calls for Instructor 1 to get a first aid kit, and tells another assistant, Lian Hook, to call an ambulance. We see him doing so, saying there's an open fracture on her right hand as her entire arm is just destroyed. He points his blade at Yang's throat, asking him what he thinks he's doing, releasing a menacing aura. Yang insists it was a mistake, and that accidents like this can happen during sparring. Ihun asks if he's really supposed to believe that, and Yang winks at him. Ihun, disgusted, sighs, saying they're taking a 20-minute break and that everyone should be seated in the same spot by 3-0, telling Young to follow him. Yoon watches and looks at Ihun's blade, recognizing it as the same one used by the gas mask man. Despite the incident, the sparring practice continues as usual for 2 more days. Young wasn't expelled and still participated, but it seemed he had been marked as a person of interest, with instructors being extremely cautious around him. As a result, there were more victories by forfeit than usual, and they even had a healer on standby now. Fortunately, they passed without any major incidents, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Yoon goes to the instructor's office and tells Ihun that training is almost over, and he wants to have a duel with real swords. Ihun blankly stares at him, sighing, saying graduation is in 2 days and asking if Yoon can just pass quietly, adding that all of this has been very exhausting and he shouldn't just barge into his office unannounced. Yoon thinks for a moment, saying that this child's play is surely getting boring, right? Ihun keeps his hands on his head, and Yoon says he can tell right away that Ihun is also feeling restless and bored, that this isn't the place for him to be looking over documents. He asks if Yoon remembers their previous meeting. Ihun glares at him, confirming that they did meet before, and the scene jumps to the gymnasium. Ihun continues, saying that it's late, but thanks to him, they were able to prevent additional damage. Yoon says it's no problem. He's just glad Ihun hasn't noticed that he scammed them for the item. Ihun then notes that he recalls Yun, saying he only cleared up to level 5, and that he is quite impressive with a sword, asking if the weapon is the reward for level 6. Yoon looks down, admitting he found it while cleaning up. Ihun tells him that's quite an excuse and summons his inventory, stating it seems Yoon isn't willing to answer any questions. He pulls out his daggers and says he'll also respond with something he found while cleaning up. Yoon watches as Young instantly dashes forward, getting behind him. Ihun turns, starting to get a feeling, and moves hella fast, swinging at Yun, who blocks it. Ihun says he thought Yun focused mainly on strength. Yun responds, noting that being good at only one thing makes you really vulnerable. Since he has recovery skills, he tells Ihun to come at him full force. Ihun agrees, saying he won't hold back, then vanishes and starts attacking Yun from all angles, leaving Yun struggling to keep up as he swats away the attacks one after another. Ihun comments on Yun's unbelievable strength, asking if he's really just tanking some of the hits. Laughing, Yun says this is how a sparring match should be, even as he gets cut all over. Ihun remarks that Yun's recovery skills seem to be as effective as he claimed, and suggests he should be more aggressive. Switching to a normal grip, Ihun thrusts directly at Yun's head, claiming he'll create an opening with unavoidable attacks. Yun smiles and raises his arm, letting Ihun's dagger jab into it. Ihun quickly realizes he can't pull his blade out, and asks if Yun wedged it between his ulna and radius bone. Yun grins, saying he's got him. He pulls Yun directly towards him and then headbutts him. Ihun's glasses slip off as he hits the ground, stunned, and says he's lost. Later, we find Ihun with an ice pack, cracking open a soda. He admits Yun is incredibly strong, and Yun reciprocates, saying he could say the same about Ihun. In reality, the sparring match was essentially a draw. They had agreed not to use skills, but Yun's passive ability still activated. Ihun asks if that's really the case, and if so, Yun should claim he won. Yun protests, saying it's not fair since there's nothing he can do about a passive skill. Ihun sighs and thanks Yun, saying he feels better after blowing off some steam, and tells him to go rest, as they have dungeon exploration practice tomorrow. As Yun leaves, a shadowy figure approaches a gate outside the school, glares at it, looks around, then goes invisible, sneaking in and closing the gate behind him without anyone noticing. The scene shifts to the next day, where everyone stands before the gate of an F-rank dungeon called Jia's Forest. Ihun explains that the Geeka monsters in this dungeon are stronger than those in a typical F-rank dungeon, but there are 2 reasons why it's designated as an educational dungeon. First, it's a field-type dungeon filled with traps, but the only threats are the monsters. Second, Geeka don't travel in packs, so you can lure them in and deal with them one at a time. More details will be explained once they enter the dungeon. An is suited up, and Yun mentions it's his first time entering a real dungeon, aside from tutorial dungeons where he never walked through a gate like this. As he steps inside, he feels a slight levitation and a rush of wind on his face. When he opens his eyes, the scenery has completely changed from outside, and everyone comments that the inside of a dungeon is pretty. Yun asks Young if they just go back through the same door to return, but Young reminds him that was explained in class. Yun then tells Young to get away. He doesn't want to look crazy and doesn't want him talking to him. Young responds, "Brother, you're the one who talked to me first." An announces that the assistant instructor will lure the Geeka in and demonstrate how to handle it. Afterward, they will hunt one monster at a time in groups of 5. He instructs the assistant to begin, while Ihun explains that they should lure them to an open space where it's easier to fight. Moving forward, he continues to explain about the Geeka. It's a bird-type monster about 2 meters tall, resembling an ostrich, with quick feet and a powerful beak. An attack from its beak can dent plate armor, making it dangerous, so they must be cautious. The standard strategy is to surround it it and tie its feet. While An is talking, a window appears in front of everyone, indicating that the central core of the dungeon has been removed and a portal to the outside is opening, signaling that the dungeon is about to collapse. The sky begins to shatter, and Yun tells everyone not to panic and to go through the portal one at a time before it collapses. He reassures them there's enough time to move in an orderly fashion, and outside, everyone wonders what's happening, as this means the dungeon was cleared. An starts counting everyone, confirming all made it out safely, and wonders who cleared the dungeon. One of the instructors calls to him, saying the dungeon is about to break as it begins releasing energy. An exclaims there's no way, ordering him to call for support while ensuring all the trainees leave quickly. Yun asks what's going on, and Ihun says he's glad Yun is there, as this is a dungeon break and he could use some help from the trainees in the front. Yun wants more details, and Ihun explains that if you destroy or remove the core without killing the boss, the dungeon collapses, and the remaining monsters will come out through the portal. That's why it's called a dungeon break. An asks if Yun didn't pay attention in class. Yun stutters, claiming he totally did, and that it was a test to see if Ihun knew it, while Ihun questions if Yun is all there upstairs and says there's no time for jokes, as the Geeka will start pouring out soon. He will lead the trainees, so Yun should stay put. Suddenly, one of the birds appears, and An realizes the situation is dire. He tells Yun he's leaving it to him, but Yun tells him to wait, insisting he hasn't heard everything yet. An begins instructing all the students, warning that they could die if they don't follow his orders. Yun turns and smiles, asking if he's supposed to handle all these monsters alone. He says whatever, and prepares for battle. Just then, Song comes charging in, yelling to include him too. He leaps in, swinging his mace at one of the Geeka and taking it out instantly. Yang's eyes widen, and he starts smiling, saying crushing things with his mace is the best feeling. Yun cringes, thinking he's not trying to match his craziness, but admits it's comforting to have a psycho on his side while Yang is slaughtering the birds. Yun pulls out his sword from his inventory, swiftly decapitating one of the monsters. Smiling, he then starts taking out the birds at lightning speed. Yang, surprised, is told by Yun to cover his ears as he activates Lion's Roar, calling the Geeka chicken-headed bastards. Instantly, all the birds have their stats lowered and their morale drops. An and the other students notice the monsters seem weakened. Ihun realizes it must be due to Yun's skill, wondering if it had a debuff effect. He notes that support is on the way, and things are going smoother than expected. However, there's a problem. Yun then uses Magic Explosion, conjuring swirling blue light in his hand that explodes, taking the head off one of the birds, but also badly injuring his hand. He wonders what kind of skill this is, saying that nobody else could use it other than himself. Yang is surprised and asks if Yun just used magic, but Yun says it's a skill he acquired a while ago. Yang asks if it's from the tutorial, and Yun says it's a secret. Yang then notices something, and they both feel the ground beginning to shake as a giant red bird appears behind the others. It's a mutant Geeka, a boss monster. An says this is bad, as the reinforcements haven't arrived yet. No matter how much Yun has already dealt with, a boss with that huge physique is another problem. Even for Young and Yun, this is the first time they've encountered a real monster. Young starts to say, bro, that's mine, asking Yun to please give it to his younger brother, and Yun responds, what the hell, that's mine. I love the psycho energy. We hear someone talking to Ihun, asking about the accident that happened during the dungeon practice today. Ihun confirms it, saying someone broke into the training dungeon and intentionally set off a dungeon break. It's speculated that this is an extension of the dungeon terror that's been going on since last month. The woman thinks about it, asking if there were any trainees who stood out. Ahun says yes, there were 2 of them. They were the ones that dealt with the dungeon boss, Mutant Jia. She seems interested as he continues, saying that one of them has overwhelming physical strength, but his speed and agility, pretty much everything about him, are at a monstrous level. However, his greatest strength is his healing power. Not only his endurance, but also his reckless nature, without any fear of getting hurt, results in unpredictable tactics, which might be the most difficult for an enemy to deal with. The other one is completely different. He wonders if he should call him a genius, saying he is a trainee born with an excellent fighting sense. His quick reflexes and tactical proficiency are outstanding, but his overly cruel nature is a big flaw. She mentions that disregarding that last line, it's rare for a H to praise someone that much, asking if he made a recruitment offer. He says it's illegal to scout a trainee when you're an instructor, and she calls him as inflexible as usual. He laughs, saying it's natural for employees to resemble their boss's personality, as he calls their guild leader. We learn that this is Sen, who was mentioned earlier in the story. She says it's good to be an instructor, but asks him to please return to the guild soon, as this accident feels very strange to her. He agrees, and jumps to a man thanking everybody for the hard work they put in over the past 10 days. He hopes everybody grows up to be a great person. This concludes the graduation ceremony. Yun wonders if that's the principal, saying it's his first time seeing him since he's seen Ahun's face so many times. He thought that Ihun was the biggest person here. As soon as they leave, a man says, "Master, please get in," and Yun is surprised, asking Young if he was born with a silver spoon as they see a limo. He tells Yun to get in, saying he'll take him home. Yun thanks him and gets into the car, saying he's never tried a car like this before. Ahun then calls out to him, and Yun mistakenly says the wrong name again, but Ahun corrects him. He asks Ihun if he's here to say goodbye, saying that he is surprisingly the affectionate type. Hyun sighs, saying it's not like that, but he can just say it is, and that the dungeon break accident that happened yesterday, and the clear rewards will be given to both of them. He tells Yun they'll be contacting him in Yusong very soon, then turns to say goodbye. Yun asks if he came all this way only to say that, and tells him he should express some gratitude. Hyun sighs, telling him that he knows he's strong and is probably going to keep growing stronger, and he's sure they won't have to wait long before meeting again in a dungeon. However, he tells him to please never forget his responsibility as a person with abilities, since he is now an ability user. We see Yun showing off his card while it's stuck to his forehead with a very serious face, asking her if she sees his potential. She's on her phone, sarcastically saying yeah, and that it's so great and admirable. He tells her that her arrogant behavior should stop starting tomorrow, as he'll be running through all the dungeons in the area. Then he thinks about how he's meant to get there, wondering if he can find a dungeon by searching on the map. She says there's an app for it called Radar, and he calls her a genius. She says that in the past, he was super smart with this kind of stuff, and it feels like he's getting dumber as time goes on. He explains he researched the app, and it talks about dungeon maps, monster information, and also recruiting party members. He noted that the gases forest was an F-class and wonders if he can handle it on his own, since he can manage that much. He thinks he can make a lot of money, and brag to Mom about it. The calendar shows a month passing, and on the news, it says that the reward for clearing the lowest grade F-rank dungeon is 20 million. The magic stone attracting attention is a new energy source, and is said to be dropped by monsters. Then we hear Yun's father asking his mother if she's heard from Yun these days, mentioning he heard Yun got a license or something last month. She tells him that Yun actually sent them 10 million as pocket money, and it looks like they got a used car last week. The dad is surprised, saying now Yun earns more than his father, and he laughs. His mother puts down the plate, saying she's worried because she heard there are lots of people getting hurt and dying, and she wonders if something will happen. He says to let Yun be. It's better to let him do this than to be unemployed. On television, they say that when you go into a dungeon, you form a team. The father says Yun's not the type to do things recklessly, so it'll be fine, he guesses. She says she guesses too, mentioning he's always been smart since he was young. I don't know if we're genuinely talking about the same character. We then see Yun taking out a bunch of TRS, easily handling hordes of them all by himself. Their body parts fly around. He says that this much is nothing, telling even more to come, and he starts laughing maniacally while slicing them into pieces. Outside the dungeon, we see his car, which he has given the nickname Buntley. His phone is ringing, and his mother says he's not answering. The father says he must be sleeping or something, and she shouldn't wake him for no reason, just to call tomorrow. She says that she guesses so, and the father says to make sure she tells him about that tomorrow. She asks about what, and he says about the thing that appeared in front of the supermarket. She asks why he would tell him that, saying the country will take care of it. He asks why they'd wait for that when they can just get Yun and his party to clear it. We then see that exact same dungeon beginning to open up as hordes of green creatures walk out, and we learn they are orc warriors. A giant one starts to growl, but we don't learn what it is quite yet. The scene jumps back to Yun as the core of the dungeon has been taken out, and he gets teleported outside. He mentions he cleared it in one day, and wants to head to the next E-rank dungeon, but wonders if it might be too much. It's still uncertain whether he can use resurrection in real life. Grabbing the handle of his car, he says he'll first go home and sleep, then tomorrow he'll eat beef with Hyun. Noticing that Hyun has called him 36 times, he wonders what's up. He picks up the phone, and she tells him something bad has happened. She starts to talk about their mom and dad, but everything else fades out as we only see Yun looking very serious. The scene shifts to the news, where the government announces that they're doing everything they can for a quick resolution regarding the large-scale dungeon opening incident in Hungi. The Ministry of National Defense, working with civilian ability user groups, has sealed off the Hungi city area to prevent further damage. Concerns are rising for the residents trapped within the sealed area. In response, the Dongan Guild states it will actively join rescue operations. We see Yun tying his shoes as Hyun asks if he's really planning to go, saying going alone is scary. He tells her not to worry, asking her who she thinks he is. Even though he looks like this, he's still a tutorial graduate, and she can just wait for him at home. She looks really nervous, telling him to please be careful and not get carried away. He waves at her, insisting he told her not to worry and to go inside and rest, because he'll bring mom and dad back soon. He starts cursing while looking extremely angry. Yun hits a military line where they tell him he can't proceed further and must turn back. He says he's an ability user and asks if he can't pass. They try to explain that it's bad to go without a party, but another guy says to let him through since any ability user is welcome, although they aren't responsible for anything that happens afterward. He gets it and thanks them for their hard work. As he makes his way through the woods, he mentions there are at least 5 confirmed open dungeons, with an E rank mixed in, hoping they're holding up well. He wonders if he'll make it in time and thinks if no monsters appear on the way, he'll be fine within 2 hours. But as soon as he finishes saying that, a massive boar slams into the side of his car, sending him flying off the road and crashing into a nearby tree, revealing the boar's red glowing eyes. It's silent for a moment, then Yun crawls out of the car, mumbling about his bad luck and that the damn pig just ruined Butley. He draws his blade, claiming he'll avenge his beloved comrade. The pig growls at him, which makes Yun look up and realize it's actually quite large. He hears a screeching noise and glances over to see a big group of goblins running toward him. He wonders if he burned down a goblin country in a past life or something. Just when he thinks he's forgotten about them, they show up to stir up trouble. Forget about winning. He doesn't have time to deal with all of them. He starts to run, saying that they say the best revenge is forgiveness, telling the pig he's gotta go, and to enjoy himself as the pig begins to growl. We see a volley of arrows flying from the goblins, attacking it, likely for food. Yun shrugs, saying that's right, if they want to fight, they should fight among themselves. Without Butley, he can't waste time on unnecessary things. He muses about why they changed the name from Butley to Bentley because Butley sounds better. That night, we see him gashed out, guessing it's too hard to arrive on foot the same day. He needed to save battery since he can't even turn on his flashlight with only 20% left. He says if he had known it would take this long, he would have taken the main road. He hears a strange sound in the woods and sees something slowly creeping up on him. As it turns to look at him, he slices his sword, and only blood spills out. It turns out it was an invisible wolf called a druin. Once it falls, he's surprised and admits he didn't think there were monsters that could turn invisible. Looks like he won't be sleeping comfortably tonight because even more start to circle him, revealing a whole horde of them. He readies his blade, instantly slicing multiple times and killing 5 of the druins back to back, splattering their blood everywhere. He sighs, saying he can't wait to see what else they have. The scene jumps to the morning, with wolf corpses strewn throughout the forest, while Yun is up in a tree, saying he couldn't sleep properly after fighting all night, and that his little sleeping area was uncomfortable. He thinks it's time to get going. Back at his parents' apartment, we see his mother texting him, and he tells them he's leaving now, and will arrive by tomorrow, so to stay quiet and hang in there. A whole day passes, and we see her messaging him, concerned that something's wrong since he hasn't replied. She goes to tell his dad, but he tells her to be quiet. She wonders if it's really okay for Yun to come to their place. He asks why they can't just call him, but she says there's an issue with the cell towers. He thinks it should be fine, but is unsure if that's really the case. Yesterday's orcs, he thought he could handle creatures like them since they were only from an F-rank dungeon. He glances back out the window, a worried expression on his face, saying he doesn't know if Yun can defeat the monster that just came out and killed all of the orcs. His own father can't even recognize him because he now has a villainous look. We see Yun laughing, saying that the orcs were just a warm-up for him and that their adorable son has arrived. He laughs more, saying dealing with orcs is super easy, even if they keep coming at him. Then he notices above their heads that there are 3 orc warriors, and just one of them is considered a boss monster. He concludes this must have been an E rank instead of an F rank. He yells to his parents that he's there to pick them up and to stay quiet. They both recognize his voice and peek out the window, surprised by how much he's changed in just a few months. We now see him charging straight at the 3 orc warriors as they give a war cry. He readies his blade, trading blows with one mob while dodging another that comes from the side, attempting to thrust its sword at him. Yun ducks under it while charging a magic explosion in his hand, slamming it into the orc's head like a basketball, causing it to explode. We see the orc's body tumble over, but another leaps at him from the side, swinging its weapon. Yun catches it with his hand, fracturing the bones in his wrist, and it hurts a bit. The scene unfolds with Yun making a quick move to counterattack, driving his blade directly into the throat of an orc. As the creature dangles, impaled, he lifts it into the air and hurls it like a bowling ball at another orc warrior. The orc lands on its back, staring up in shock as he finds himself in a compromising position, while Yun mockingly shoves his fist into his mouth, declaring, "Magic explosion." Suddenly, a blinding blue light erupts from the orc's mouth, causing its head to burst. A gruesome mixture of Yun's and the orc's blood spills onto the ground as he sits triumphantly atop the 2 bodies, but he quickly realizes this is just the beginning. He's surrounded by a whole tribe of orcs, led by an imposing orc general. With a deep, rumbling laugh, the general towers over Yun, who retorts that their leader is ugly as hell. Hoping to conserve his magical energy for regeneration, Yun activates Giant's power, boosting his strength by 60%. Taking a deep breath, he unleashes a lion's roar, bolting towards the general with determination. However, he quickly finds himself smacked in the face, blood gushing from his nose as he's knocked back, colliding with other orc warriors who then throw him right back at the general. It dawns on him that the general is just toying with him. He's taking a beating. A powerful kick to the chest sends him crashing to the ground, and as he struggles to stand, unsure if his magic power is depleted, he grips his blade, refusing to back down despite his family's safety being at stake. Yoon's family is just behind him, and he shouts for the boss to bring it on. Surprised by Yoon's tenacity near death, he screams in a mad charge, only to hear his mother scream as he turns to discover orcs climbing up to their window. Panic strikes him as he rushes to save them but is overwhelmed by orcs. Managing to fight free by slicing off their limbs, he sprints ahead, only to be caught by the general's hand, slamming his head into the concrete. Resolutely, he refuses to let the orcs reach his parents, reaching out as his vision blurs, leading to his untimely death. But then, in a frantic series of attacks, a mysterious figure appears, slicing the general into 4 pieces at Sen, who has come to his aid. She quickly resheathes her sword as the general's body crumples. A guild member calls out, and she turns to hear that they've finished their task while prioritizing the evacuation of the injured residents. Sen acknowledges the damage is severe but is thankful that the orcs were gathered in one spot, minimizing destruction elsewhere. Turning back, she learns that Yun has tragically passed and orders his body be treated with care. But when she looks again, Yun's body is mysteriously missing. We find him with eyes closed, suddenly waking up on a tree branch. Due to his resurrection, his levels have dropped by 1, and his stats have been reduced by 50% for 24 hours. Realizing where he is the last place he slept and, noting that it's been a full day, he seizes one of his blades, understanding he must return immediately. Dropping from the tree, he feels the weight of his diminished stats and runs, praying everything is alright. Upon arrival, he finds the area entirely deserted and his parents' home empty. After aimlessly wandering all night, he encounters a military unit, borrowing a phone from an officer to contact a Hun, only to learn of his father's amputated arms and his mother in a coma. Overcome with anger, he shatters the phone. Fast forward 2 months, news breaks that the dog and guild are hunting for the boss in the D-rank dungeon, PLS of Hai and Sen. The guild leader discusses a newly surfaced C-rank dungeon. Yun's friend asks if he's off to another dungeon again, and he affirms. She notes he's already died 3 times in 1 week, but he brushes off her concern, walking away while she watches him leave, visibly worried. As Yun jumps into the dungeon, he encounters a giant ant, Antria, getting killed by a man with a spear who levels up and revels in it. They congratulate him, recognizing him as the party's ace. He boasts about being an elite, almost finished with his grind through Tutorial 5, daydreaming of reaching level 35 to join the Dune Guild. Meanwhile, he views himself as a decent guy, thankful for his party's help and expecting them to catch up soon. Suddenly, noticing Yun running toward them alone, they wonder who would be foolish enough to enter the dungeon solo. The elite warns Yun about the core room being ahead and the dangers that lay that way, but Yun disregards the advice, continuing his sprint. His party members debate following him, reluctantly deciding they can't abandon him and should chase after. Just then, a swarm of Antria and Antria soldiers crawls above Yun. He activates an ability called Wayne's Secret, boosting his stats by 40%, but at the risk of his body's deterioration. As ants leap towards him, he slowly lifts his blade and activates another ability, 1/2 halves, cleaving through the swarm with precision. Following that, he unleashes a magic explosion, decimating the remaining ants, venting his rage and frustration. The original group arrives, stunned into silence, as they watch Yun go wild. Approaching a dungeon core, he reflects on how he just obtained Wayne's Secret, which aligns perfectly with his regeneration skill. Grateful that he managed to level up his physical regeneration just in time, he's interrupted by a man asking if he's okay. Yun responds affirmatively, but the man is taken aback. However, determined to fulfill his objective, Yun grips the core, ready to leave. When they ask if he won't collect magical crystals from the fallen, he asserts he doesn't need them and plans to exit, so the group promptly begins gathering the crystals themselves, speculating on how much money they'll earn. Yun says he doesn't have time to think about that because he's focused on getting stronger. The spear guy turns around and gives him one last look. Later that night, one of them asks who that man was, and Yun shrugs it off, saying it doesn't matter since they're making a lot of money, which is what's important. He tells her not to get too hung up on it because there are all kinds of people everywhere. The key is they earned a few days worth of cash all thanks to him. Another member speculates that maybe it was the guy known for clearing dungeons solo. The spear guy dismisses it, insisting that even if the rumor is true, this isn't an F-rank dungeon but an E-rank one. Clearing an E-rank dungeon alone would be tough, even for Sen and Dongwu. Just as he finishes saying that, they all get status windows popping up in front of them, indicating the core has been removed, and the portal to the outside is now open. In the boss room, even bigger ants are shown, while Yun sits atop the boss's corpse, sighing. He's acquired another skill book called Anri Outer Shell, which, when activated, will harden his skin. He notes that combining Wayne's Secret and his regeneration skill is already draining his mana, and if he uses this skill, he'll definitely be out of it. He explains that using a bunch of skills doesn't make you skilled. For instance, the Berserker ability embedded in his longsword increases stamina and strength by 1.5 times for 5 minutes, but while using it, decision-making gets impaired and there are severe after effects. He thinks it's useless if the ability isn't used at the right time, no matter how urgent the situation. If only he hadn't lost his cool then. He shakes his head, deciding to stop regretting it because all he needs to do is focus on one thing, getting stronger by any means necessary. He decides to consume the skill book since he can always use it later. He hops out of the gate where everyone's being interviewed. A reporter mentions rumors of a man clearing dungeons solo and that he was spotted entering this one today, and the spear guy insists it isn't him. Important points out that he's actually coming out right now. As they see him exiting the dungeon, Yun sighs and starts cracking his neck, only to be met by a swarm of paparazzi. They ask if he's the talent from the rumors and if he's interested in joining a guild. He says he knows nothing about the rumors and isn't interested, so they should get out of his way. He bumps into a guy who starts barking at him, asking if he really just hit him. Yun asks what he's gonna do if he did, getting right in the guy's face. The guy gets scared, looks away, and apologizes. As Yun walks away, they say he looks like he probably has a criminal record, and they really thought he was going to kill that guy. He heads to the parking lot, unlocking his car. He mutters that it was annoying, and that he wasted his time for nothing. Then a man calls out to him, and Yoon turns to see who it is. The guy says he doesn't have to be wary because he's here to help, handing him a business card. Yoon looks at it and sees that he's a member of the talented association, named Sun Yuno. Yuno says they've been keeping an eye on him and that if he chooses to join them, they'll use all their resources to help. He adds that Yoon doesn't have to decide immediately. They'll appreciate it if he just calls them at all. As Yuno leaves, Yoon thinks about it. He explains that the talented association was founded to promote the rights of talents, unlike guilds that focus on profit. While he eats some cup noodles in a convenience store, he reflects that he wasn't aware they recruited people like this, but since they didn't ask for an immediate response, he doesn't care. A little girl points at him with her mother, saying he looks like a pig. He's just catching strays. After finishing 3 cups of noodles and some other dishes, he realizes his biggest problem is his mana. It's nearly all spent on Wayne's secret technique and body regeneration, so he's always low on it. Adding in injuries and equipment he just got, he won't even be able to use his current attack skills. He opens a marketplace app on his phone, wondering what to get, but finds nothing particularly useful. He notes that you can only wear 4 accessories for their effects, regardless of the item type. Instead of buying a cheap item that barely boosts his stats, he should look for something legit. Something catches his eye. There's information about a dungeon that drops a ring increasing magic power. The next day, he heads out to a remote area, reading the guide that mentions an E-rank dungeon called Goblin Village. It says the shamans inside have a decent chance of dropping a ring that adds 1 or 2 to magic power, sometimes going up to +4. The dungeon's boss, the Goblin Great Shaman, drops an even better ring when defeated. Originally, it was a quiet hunting ground with good income, visited only by a few who knew about it. Recently, however, tons of people have been claiming it as their territory. Continuing through the forest after veering off the main path, he reads that the government doesn't care about how ruthless people are inside, as long as there's no dungeon break. The post's author hopes a major guild will clear it, but people comment that the major guilds are the ones sitting on it, keeping any good finds to themselves. Yoon looks at his phone, wondering if any of this is true. He thought there'd be at least someone guarding the entrance, but he low-key doesn't care. He opens the door and heads into the dungeon, finding himself in a tropical area. Someone exclaims in disbelief that there's another one, and when he looks up, he sees 3 people standing guard at the door. One guy, smoking a cigarette, comments on Yun's nice outfit, saying they're gonna score a decent amount with this one. His buddy mentions they'll get a good bonus, and a woman chimes in about dreaming of a fat pig last night, giving her a good feeling about this venture. One of the guys approaches Yun, asking if he didn't hear this is the Bait Guild's territory. Yun asks what that matters, and the guy explains that entering someone else's territory without permission means he has to pay, and if he gives them everything he has, they'll spare his life. The woman gasps as their friend suddenly gets sent flying past them, landing on the ground, foaming at the mouth. Yoon looks absolutely pissed. They immediately draw their weapons, asking if he really wants to die. Cigarette leaps at him with an overhead attack, but Yun catches the blade with his bare hands and shatters it, returning with a kick to the dude's chest, sending him flying. He says he really likes people like them and asks if they know why as he starts stomping on the guy's head. He explains it's because if he beats the hell out of them, he doesn't have to feel bad. Then a mana attack flies in, hitting him in the back. When he turns, glaring at her while the smoke still leaves her hand, we see her shaking with fear, telling him to stop and calling him a freak. He says he didn't know mana explosion was a long-range skill and thanks her for teaching him something new. He then grabs her hand, saying in exchange he'll teach her something too. She's surprised, and he adds that the power is better if you use it like this, using mana explosion on her hands originally called Magic Explosion before translation changed. She starts screaming in pain and falls to the floor, clutching her bloody, disheveled hand. Yun declares they're just a bunch of nobodies and then turns to ask who these people are, as a whole new group approaches him, looking pissed. They ask if he knows he's in the territory of the Bait Guild. One dude tells him he should give up on returning home alive. Yoon now understands the situation, saying this is as good as he needed a guide anyway, and starts laughing. A man explains that the tutorial changed his life completely. He loved that dungeons where power alone decides your rank, along with violence and money. Someone like him, who was just another cog in society's machine, now lives a plentiful life in this new world, and has become an executive in a big guild, the Bait Guild. He feels like they put wings on a tiger. Inside dungeons, he has nothing to be afraid of, and this is the same dude who told Yun he should give up on returning home alive. Before the man can react, we see Yun's face coming in with a crazy punch. When the dude wakes up, he's looking up at the sky, wondering what's going on. As he looks around, all his men are down. He asks, "What the hell just happened?" Yun clicks his tongue, saying he can't believe he didn't dodge any attacks. The bro on the floor can't believe they all lost to one unarmed man. Yun pulls out the knife that was lodged in his side, and says he's going to give them 5 seconds to gather in front of him, because he's going to select who his guide will be, then licks the blood off the knife, which can't be sanitary. He tells them to line up for the selection. After a bit of fair evaluation, he chooses the Bait Guild's grunt, Kim's Woo. He tells everyone to clap for him, but nobody moves. He puts the knife to their throats, telling them to clap, and they immediately comply. The dude asks what's going to happen to them now. Yoon thinks about it and asks if they'll stop acting like this and live honest lives. They say yes, and promise to never do anything bad again, only for Yoon to hit the dude with a left, followed by another punch to the face as blood begins to fly. He asks if they really thought he'd believe that as murderers like themselves will never live a normal life again. He starts beating them pretty much to death, and Sunwoo is terrified. One of the dudes does his best to raise his hand but has no strength. Yoon decides that's probably good enough, and tells Sunwoo it's time to leave. As time passes, he explains that not all dungeons are like this, but some dungeon archetypes can exceed the size of a city. He complains that this place is way too damn big, hoping he's not being led in circles on purpose. Sunwoo assures him he's not, and is trying to find the path with the fewest monsters. Yun tells him that's a useless thing to worry about. They can just go where the monsters are since he's bored. The dude asks if he's serious and insists he can go find some right now. Yoon asks if he's crazy, pointing out it's getting dark. The dude is confused. Yoon says to forget it, and they can just eat, asking what he's got on him. The dude says he'll handle it as he sets up a campfire. He starts cooking their food, and Yun asks if it's almost done. The dude says yes, but wonders why he carries so many swords since he's using them to prop up their pots. Yun remarks that instant ramen in a mess tin sure is nostalgic, and it's been a while since he's had this. He grabs it, even though it's still hella hot. Sunwoo asks if his hands are okay. Yun says it's not that bad and hands him his, telling him to enjoy the meal, even though bro is the one who made it. Yun starts slurping it up, and so does Sunwoo. Yun then asks Sunwoo how old he is. Sunwoo tells him he's 25 and asks what he was doing before becoming a talent, wondering if he was in college. Dude says yes, and Yoon says he should have just stayed in school, questioning why he's here doing something like this. Sunwoo looks sad, explaining that he needed money. His student debt had been piling up, and he couldn't apply for a scholarship because he kept taking part-time jobs. To make matters worse, his father's business failed, and their situation got worse. Eventually, the shock was too much for his mother. Yun calls out to him, asking why he's telling him a sad story, and if he just wants to die already. Poor bro, he did ask. Yun tells him to stop yapping and just eat the food since they need to rest up for tomorrow. After quite a few ramen packets later, we see them laying down. Sunwoo wakes up in the middle of the night thinking Yun is asleep. He stands up, thinking this is his only chance to kill him. Then he sweats nervously, realizing how easily Yun handled everyone else, and decides he'd rather just run away as he creeps away from their camp. Yun calls out to him, sending a chill down his spine as he asks where he's going. Sunwoo says he needs to go pee, and Yun tells him to just do it right here, reminding him that if he runs, he'll kill him, and he's not just saying that, he really will do it. The next day, we see Sunwoo pointing towards something in the woods, saying that what he sees there is the goblin village where the main core is located. Yoon says he sees it too, feeling a lot of mana gathered around here, which Sunwoo finds surprising. He can feel that? Yoon asks if he can't, calling him a weakling. Sunwoo laughs nervously, internally telling himself to stay calm, since Yun won't be harassing him much longer after all. He's going to be dead. We then see him laughing evilly in the goblin village dungeon. The monsters are concentrated near the main core. However, they regularly send scouts all around the field, and the bait guild farms those scouts. None of the scouts have been killed yet, which means the village has all its troops, and Sunwoo can't wait to see if Yun can survive against an entire E-rank dungeon. The goblins look alert as Yun starts pulling out his blades, saying this is good because goblin massacres are his specialty. As the entire village starts running at him, he charges forward, readying his blade for an attack. Suddenly, a backpack is thrown into the air and hits him in the back of the head. Yun turns, wondering what's going on, only to see Sunwoo running away, calling him a crazy bastard, saying it was horrible meeting him and that he never wants to see him again, hoping he dies. Yun watches as he runs off, a smirk creeping onto his face, muttering that the guy's screwed once he finishes. A bit later, we see Sunwoo completely gassed out, thinking that even if that guy is a monster, he won't be able to do anything. Suddenly, a status window pops up in front of him, informing him that the dungeon's core has been destroyed, and the portal to the outside has been opened. Sunwoo looks at it, then does a double take, realizing this might be the worst decision he's ever made. He explains that the Goblin Village dungeon doesn't have a normal core. All its forces are concentrated in the center because the village itself is the core. He can't believe this kind of dungeon has been beaten solo and starts to shake, wondering how the hell he can win against such overwhelming enemies. He thinks it would probably take firepower to wipe everything out. Remember, these are Sunwoo's thoughts and opinions, even though they're true. He claims there's no way he could do it as strong, but that's just not how he fights. Meanwhile, we see Yun smiling while brawling. Sunwoo continues, saying maybe it's great strength and endurance that matters, though that's important too, as we watch him mutilate the goblins. He's not unscathed either. He's riddled with arrows and spears. Sunwoo insists that the most crucial factor is overwhelming defense and decisiveness in the face of waves of enemies. If he could endure their attacks and find the optimal path to the commander, he could definitely have killed the Grand Shaman on his own. It's a dangerous tactic that could lead to failure with the slightest hesitation, and he thinks he was just stupidly good at fighting. Then he wonders what kind of guy he's screwing dealing with right now. He's definitely some sort of exceptional strategist. Of course, we know that Yoon is crafting his own narrative because he's not that type of dude. As we see his fist down the shaman's throat, he pulls his hand back, asserting that muscles are the greatest form of brains. He starts to use mana explosion. The loot he got from the shaman includes a magic stone and a ring mentioned in the post, which grants him +4 magic power and 10% mana regeneration. Yoon looks at his hands now that he's equipped them, saying his goal is achieved. He wonders if he should go deal with Sunwoo now that he's out of it. As he exits the dungeon, he's shocked to see a mob of people waiting for him. He questions what's going on, thinking they clearly couldn't beat him on their own, so they brought the whole squad to gang up on him. He scans the crowd, spotting Sunwoo and the others he beat up when they first met. He decides to give Sunwoo 30 hits to start, then everyone else is next. A man coughs and says there seems to be a misunderstanding. When Yun turns, the dude is smiling, claiming they're not here to fight. He just wants to talk and that his guild members made some mistake. He introduces himself as Yui-hun from the Bap Guild, asking for Yun's name. Yoon brushes him off, saying, "Nah." Yui-hun asks if he can just hear him out. Yoon snaps that he doesn't like beating around the bush and demands to know what Yui-hun wants, feeling his anger rising. Yui-hun, sensing this, says he'll be more direct, wants to make an offer for Yoon to join the guild. They'll give him anything he needs, including an executive position. Yui-hun explains that a powerful talent who's not yet publicly known is something they can't let slip by. If they use him as a figurehead, they can become one of the biggest guilds too. Yun sighs, saying no again. Yui-hun laughs, saying he didn't expect Yun to accept it right away, pulling out a card and suggesting Yun take some time to think about it. But Yun just looks down at it, then rips it in front of everyone, surprising them all. He asserts he knows his personality is trash, but he doesn't act like them, pointing out he doesn't think third-rate gangsters can recruit him. Yui-hun starts to smile while holding back his anger, and Yun steps closer, asking if he's mad and if he wants to fight. Yui-hun keeps his cool, saying no, that he just wanted to chat today, and will reach out again if he gets the chance. Yun spits on the ground, muttering, "Opportunity, my ass," annoyed that he can't catch a break running into rats like this as he walks away. Sunwoo expresses relief that the crazy bastard is gone, noting he thought he was cool. When he turns around, Yui-hun approaches him, but we don't see what happens next as it jumps to Yun on the highway. He reflects that he almost got screwed. It looked like there were about 100 of them, and he was too low on mana to fight, so he definitely would have died. He curses for forgetting to beat up Sunwoo and blames that bastard Yoon for it, promising he'll get his chance someday and deal with him next time they meet. We see one of the guys from earlier telling Yui-hun it's true that Sunwoo volunteered to guide Yun. Yui-hun asks if it's true, and Sunwoo denies it. Yui-hun then reaches for his sword, and Sunwoo trembles in fear, begging for mercy and saying he'll do anything. Yui-hun asks if he really wants to live, to which Sunwoo cries yes, saying he'll do whatever they ask. He suddenly feels a sharp pain in his chest, and looks down to see Yui-hun has stabbed him with his sword, declaring that a traitor shouldn't even think of living and that he's nothing but a lowlife. He kicks Sunwoo into the dungeon, and as Sunwoo starts to bleed out, he calls out for his guildmaster before the doors shut behind him, and the dungeon disappears. Yui-hun tells his vice guildmaster to find out everything he can about that man, and we see him cleaning his sword too. The vice guildmaster reassures not to worry, someone else has already been sent to follow him. We see a guy doing just that, trailing a car behind Yui-hun, who laughs, wondering how someone could dare refuse his offer in such a way. Sure, he can be arrogant because he's strong, but he knows that's not true for the people around him. He plans to involve his family. If he can't have his way with Yun, he'll force it out of him. He can't wait to see how long Yun plans to keep up that attitude. Bro is making a huge mistake. The scene then shifts to a Korean barbecue restaurant, where the meats are sizzling on the grill. Hun is shocked that her slacker brother is buying beef so often, marveling at his newfound success. He asks her where else he should spend his money, claiming nothing is more important than food. She tells him to hand over the tongs so she can cook. He asks about her hospital visit and how their mother is doing. She says the doctor said their mom is fine and might wake up soon. Yun sighs in relief, saying that's good. Hun notes that she caught him smiling, pointing out it feels like it's been a while since she last saw him smile. He's been all serious and frowny, not like his usual self. He insists he smiles all the time, but she retorts that a villain's smile doesn't count. Just then, his stomach growls, and he says he has to go to the bathroom. She asks if he's serious, especially since the meat just finished cooking. He quips that he'd rather in the bathroom than in a dungeon. After doing his business, he feels like he just dropped at least 2 days worth. As he washes his hands, he spots a man talking to a Hun, who points him out. The guy bows to Yun and walks away. Yun heads back to the table, asking her if she was getting hit on. She says no, asking if he doesn't know who that is. He asks why he would, and she says the dude told her to give this to him. Yun says if he knew him, why would he leave after seeing him? Yun opens the letter and is surprised to see it's from Yui-hun, who hopes it finds him well. They head back to the apartment, and a Hun says she should have stopped by the convenience store, asking Yun if he wants some beer. He says no, and she clicks her tongue, saying she'll go get some for herself. Then Yoon says it's fine and to just stay inside while he grabs her some. He heads out, and as we see him exiting the convenience store, he makes his way home, wondering what the hell those bastards were planning by daring to approach his family. He thinks maybe he should stop going into dungeons for a while and just stay home, saying he doesn't think they'll come to her workplace. His phone starts ringing, and when he looks down, it's his father. He answers and asks if he's home. Yoon says no, he's out right now. His father says he just wanted to let him know that his mother has woken up. Yoon asks how she is and if she's okay. His father says they still need to wait and see, but she'll probably be fine. Yoon sighs in relief, and his father tells him that his friend visited earlier. Yoon asks who, saying he can't think of anyone who would visit. His father then says the guy's name was Yui-hun, and he asked him to say hello, wondering if he's from the neighborhood or something since he's never seen him before. Yoon starts feeling rage boiling inside him, and he's about to go ballistic on this dude. It jumps to the next day at the talented education school, and we see Pine Aong, who we haven't seen in a while. Her coworker calls her Mayong, which I will also start calling her, as they talk about their weekend. A woman calls out to them, and when they turn, it's a woman named Shinza. If I've introduced her before, I'm sorry. It's been a while since I covered this series. She tells them she brought some coffee, and they thank her, saying she didn't need to. She says she's only doing it because she wants to. Then she heads out after waving bye to them, and they wonder why she's always wearing armor. Myong says she's a little weird, but she's a good person. To be fair, every group has its weirdos, and Shinza is an angel compared to some other people. Her coworker says that Myong sure has a lot to say about weird people, and Myong says that's the truth. It really was the worst batch of students. One of them shattered their opponent's hand in a spar, and there was a strange dude who intimidated her at the reception. She still has nightmares about it since he looked more like an orc than a human. On cue, Yoon appears behind her, still completely pissed off about the situation. She turns slowly as he stares at her, making eye contact, and they awkwardly stare at each other for a second, neither saying anything. She starts sweating nervously as his eyes are filled with craziness. Both she and her coworkers scream for their lives. Yoon calls out to them, and they scream louder for somebody to call the police. They even start crying. He asks where Ihun is, saying he needs to protect his family, so he needs him. They both stop panicking, still teary-eyed, and Myong says that Ihun was a temporary instructor, so he's not here anymore. It jumps to a meeting room where we see him giving a presentation, saying they can estimate that the rank of the emergent dungeons will continue to increase, and because of that, recruiting skilled individuals is what's needed most. A knock sounds on the door, and he opens it, saying they're in the middle of a meeting. The guy says a monster-like man is causing a commotion in the lobby, insisting he knows him. Ihun wonders who it could be. They finally meet in the reception room. Ihun says he did say they'd meet again soon, but he didn't think it would be like this, asking if there's something he can help with. Yoon says he would like to hire him. Ihun is glad he's straight to the point, asking what the details are. Yoon tells him that the Back Guild is threatening his family and taunting him. He needs a bodyguard who can protect his family while he goes to destroy them. Ihun asks what he's been up to and puts down his coffee, saying that the Back Guild is infamous enough that he is aware of them. However, they haven't been able to do anything since they lack justification. Yoon says he will destroy them himself, and that it will be a win-win. Ihun says he's as brutish as ever, asking why he's chosen him, saying he doesn't believe Yoon was aware that Ihun's part of the Dongan Guild. Yoon insists he's the strongest talented he knows. Ihun says Young should also fit the bill. Yoon asks if he really wants him to leave his family to that freak. He doesn't even know his phone number, and all he needs is 1 week because if he protects them for a week, he'll pay him a lot of money. Ihun says he's not trying to brag, but he already earns a lot of money, probably much more than Yoon thinks. He also holds the position of Vice Guild, Master of the Dongan Guild, so if Yoon wants him to work for him, he'll have to offer something more than just money. Yoon says no way and asks him if he's after his body, saying he didn't know he swung that way. Ihun asks if this is his way of negotiating, saying he'll drive him crazy if he keeps talking like this, so he'll make an offer. It's nothing crazy, but if the job goes well, he'd like Yoon to meet with his guildmaster. He'll still require monetary payment, of course, but if Yoon agrees to this condition, the guild will likely help him afterward. Yoon says he's placed 5 bodyguards in his mother's hospital ward, and 5 more in the company where his sister works. Yoon says he's generous, and Yoon tells him it's better to be safe than sorry, but asks if he'll really be fine on his own since the back guild is rather large. Yoon says it doesn't seem that big compared to his guild. Ihun says a guild's size isn't determined by how large their office is. The back guild possesses an abnormal number of dungeons, so there's no doubt they have some kind of backing. Yoon thinks about it, and Ihun reminds him that he mentioned making an appointment the day he received the note, which means they've definitely prepared all their available forces. It would have been smarter for Yoon to ambush them. We see a flashback to Yoon on the phone, as he actually told Ihun he'd do anything they want, asking where to meet. He says he didn't have a choice since his family's safety came first, and thanks to that, he managed to buy himself some time to meet him. He then hands Ihun his wallet, and Yoon asks why he's giving this to him. Ihun tells him to park the car at his place, and Yoon asks if he's really going in there to die. Yoon says it's not like that and not to misunderstand. He can't tell him the details, but he'll be back alive and well tomorrow, and now he'll be off. He walks straight into the back guild, where Yui-hun welcomes him, saying they've been waiting. As we see the entire guild present, Yoon sighs, saying they sure did prepare a lot, and asks if he's ready to get his his ass rocked. Yui Hun reiterates that he's trying to fight, and since he's now a member of the Back family, they just came out here to welcome him. Yun starts laughing as he gives his little speech about family while chuckling, asking if they know what it spells backwards. Which is obviously, go for us English speakers. It's not even close, but in Korean, it's pretty similar. He then activates his lion's roar and Mona's explosions, charging up with his hands. He slams down onto the floor, surprising everyone as the ground begins to rumble. He starts smiling, and they panic, asking what the hell he's doing. Suddenly, the ground explodes, and they can't believe he's doing this. Yui Hun asks if he's stupid, thinking the floor is going to shatter when it's reinforced steel. Yun reaches into his inventory, pulls out a sword, and says he knows that. He then activates Wayne's secret technique, combined with Titan strength and swift strike, slashing away at the reinforced steel, actually causing it to collapse. Members from the guild start falling down to lower levels, and we see them laying there among the rubble. Yoon stands up, sighing, saying the effects weren't bad. It's the thing he got from the ant dungeon, which allows him to harden himself. Yui Hun calls out to him. When Yun turns, he safely lands on the ground, telling him to be rational, as it's not too late. They could be great partners. Yoon says he's tired of the crap and has already crossed the line. Yui Hun says if it's about him visiting his family, he'd like to apologize. But think about it, if they work together, they could even bring down the Dongan guild. Sen is too arrogant in how she treats those not in her guild, and they could take them down, asking if he understands what he's saying. Yun tunes him out since he talks too much. Of course, Yui Hun continues yapping, saying there are over 200 guild members in the building alone, many more throughout the country. The Back Guild is only missing one thing, a figurehead, the absolute strongest person who can be the vanguard for their members. With him, the Back Guild could expand beyond Korea, worldwide. Yun then starts hawking up and spits directly on Yui Hun, who sits there in disbelief, staring at him. Yun says he felt like he was listening to an elementary schooler's presentation and should consider becoming a YouTuber instead. Yui Hun touches his face, feeling the spit, looking down, and starts shaking, saying he knew it. A lowly peasant could never understand his grand aspirations. Yoon holds back his laughter, low-key cringing, asking if the rest heard that, saying he called him a peasant. He can't stop laughing, saying that's a weird choice of words for the 21st century, asking if Yui Hun thinks he's some kind of noble when he's just a thug. Yui Hun's face gets really angry, saying he can't wait to see how long Yun can talk when all his men are there to teach him a lesson. He tells them to kill him as they start activating different abilities, like mana restriction, mind corruption, and all sorts of debuffs, flying toward Yun. He activates his lion's roar once more, telling them to get lost, freeing himself from the debuffs, and of course, his rings resist status effects. All of the opponent's stats and morale have now decreased. Yui Hun calls BS, saying he doesn't need them to restrain him, he needs them to kill him. They prepare various attacks. Crap, it's the thumb from Spy Kids. This time, they launch offensive spells directly at Yun. He says this is what he's been waiting for, and can't wait to see how well the Anria engine will work against magic as he hardens himself. There's an explosion right where he was standing in front of Yui Hun, and the rest start charging in without even trying to give him a second to breathe. Even those from the upper floors make their way down directly toward him, coming in full swing within melee range. Yoon's not going down without a fight as he starts cutting through them, making light work of the first wave. Yui Hun is visibly pissed, but I'd be too if I had an entire guild losing to one guy. Yoon takes a deep breath and yells at them to come at him all together, only to have explosions follow. Later that night, the building has finally calmed down, and Yun's gassed out, with guild members scattered everywhere on the floor around him. Some are definitely dead, there's still a lot left, but he's taken out quite a few. He points his sword at Yui Hun, laughing, asking if he's feeling okay, but you can tell he's nervous. He says that with this, he's a murderer, which is the same as them. Yoon calls BS, saying if Yui Hun is trying to make him feel guilty, just give up. If you try to kill someone, you've got to be prepared to get killed yourself. Yui Hun says he should stop acting so chill for someone about to die, even if he pretends otherwise. It's obvious he's tired as hell. Tentacles form from the ground beneath Yoon, wrapping around him. Yoon calls him a dumbass, saying this is nothing only to feel a sharp pain in his chest. When he looks down, he sees his reflection in a sword. A man appears behind him, stabbing him. Yoon realizes he's definitely done for, but he lasted long enough. Yui Hun tells the Vice Guild Master he did great and that he'll deal the finishing blow. The dude agrees and lets go of his sword. Yui Hun says lasting this long without many injuries was crazy enough to the point that he wants to replace all the trash here with him. However, it would be worse to have an uncontrollable beast, asking Yoon if he has any last words. Yoon says he'll find a hair in every stew he eats. Yui Hun, annoyed, says he's still trying to act tough until the end and grabs him by the head. His hand begins to glow as Yun is filled with nothing but burning pain, igniting in flames from Yui Hun's magic. As he starts burning alive, Yui Hun walks away, lighting a cigarette, and exhales, asking the Vice Guild leader how the situation is. He's told there are over 30 dead and 50 with serious injuries. Yui Hun's pissed, saying they lost them for nothing all because of one guy. They should just grab the equipment Yun dropped as it looked pretty good, so they can use it to make up for their losses. His men start freaking out, and when Yun turns around, it's revealed that his corpse isn't there anymore, just the vice president's sword. A whole day later in his apartment, a status window appears telling him him he's revived but lost 1 level, and due to that, his stats have been reduced by 50% for 24 hours. He then exits his room, and Hyun spots him, saying she thought he wasn't doing that anymore, commenting that it seems like he died since he's coming out of his room. He tells her he's hungry, asking if there's anything to eat. She then barks at him, reminding him to take his shoes off because he wasn't raised in a barn. He apologizes, and she tells him she also said to take off his armor when he resurrects, and to clean up his mess along with a bunch of other chores. It jumps to a whole 2 days later as we see a dungeon called Key's Gorge, which is under the Bait Guild's control. The gatekeepers are bored, wondering why nobody's come by. They mention there's a ton of rumors about the guild, and one of the guys says he's just tired of this. Everyone they run into is just a bunch of cowards anyway, and whoever comes next, they'll just take their equipment. His partner laughs, saying they could also just take their lives. The dude notices something, telling him that somebody's coming as someone approaches them. There's no way this is the best disguise the bro got. They both stare at him, wondering why he's in a suit, sharing awkward glances with each other, and saying this is worse than Spider-Man's first outfit. Yun explains that he learned something from breaking in so recklessly last time. If he kept trying, it would be no different than hitting a rock with an egg. Of course, he has infinite eggs, so it's not the worst idea, but he can't put up with that many resurrection penalties, so he needs to defeat them one at a time. His plan now is to go inside their dungeons and destroy them one after the other. We see one of the dudes crying and saying he's sorry, and Yun asks what he's apologizing for. The dude says he doesn't actually know. Yun then loosens his grip a little on his throat and throws him, asking why he's apologizing when he has no idea what he's apologizing for. While the dude is lying on the ground, Yun throws a piece of paper at him, making the dude confused, and hands him a pen, telling him to write because he wants to know where all of the Bait Guild's dungeons are. If he does that, he'll spare his life. The bro immediately clocks into his 18-hour shift. Yoon tells him he has a question, and asks how they haven't gotten caught despite killing so many people. Even if they are very quiet about it, they're bound to get caught if they keep it up, asking if they bribe the police. The dude says he heard something like that, but he doesn't know the details. The fact that they always choose dungeons with no CCTVs around probably helps too. Yun says that makes sense, and the dude tells him he wrote down all the dungeons he's aware of. Yun starts reading through them, telling the dude he did a good job while sticking his hand out. Then his hand starts to glow, and the dude realizes he's screwed up as his head gets blown off by a mana explosion. Yun sighs, saying that means he won't get caught either. Then he walks away, leaving the dude's headless corpse. He tells the Bait Guild to wait, saying that if they are the bad guys, he's an even bigger one. We see on the news that the office for the Bait Guild is being talked about due to its destruction, and they made an excuse saying it was a monster they had in captivity that escaped. Everybody starts giving them bad press. We see Yui Hun slam his hand on his table. The bro is shaking with anger. He says he can't believe he had to use his pocket. Excuse it was something reserved only for the most extreme emergencies, and it was all because of one psycho. His door swings open, and the vice guild leader yells at him, only to get hit in the forehead by an ashtray. Yui Hun asks why he's barging in here without knocking when he's already pissed off. He apologizes, and says it's urgent because that man has appeared again. Yui Hun asks if he's talking about the nut job that's been trashing only their dungeons. The guy says yes, and that 7 of them have already been trashed by him, and more than 100 of their guild members are dead. Yui Hun wonders what this guy's deal is, saying that the more numbers he sends, the more end up dead. He tells them they'll no longer do rotating shifts and that everyone should go into the dungeon and take turns sleeping. He does exactly that. Yui Hun sits back down in his chair, starting to contemplate his choices. He says 5 days ago, Yoon attacked them, and his corpse disappeared. 2 days later, some nutjob began attacking their dungeons, and only their dungeons. He says he knew it, and had been considering this for a while, but now with so much evidence, it's obvious Yoon must have had an accomplice. The corpse must have been taken with some skill, but there's not enough information to form countermeasures. He starts looking at his phone, saying he didn't want to resort to this, but he has no choice. It starts ringing, and a man picks up saying, "Mr. Justice served. What is the occasion?" Not sure what that means, but it pisses Yui Hun off, and he says he needs his help. The guy starts laughing, asking what he wants, and mentions how he's heard his guild has been getting bodied recently, asking if it's something to do with that. He says in the first place, he doesn't even know what Yui Hun will give him if he helps, since he's richer than he is. Yui Hun tells him it'll be a fight, and the dude changes his tone a bit, saying surely he would want an entertaining fight. There's only one target, but the dude is definitely not average, and he's sure he'll be satisfied. Does anyone else have a suspicion that this may be? Yui Hun looks eerily similar that night, at another one of the dungeons. We see the man waiting at the gate with somebody else, asking for the other man's name. The dude tells him that his name is Kim Il-woo. The other guy says he actually doesn't care, and is just going to call him Big Bro. Yui Hun grunts, asking when the powerful dude is meant to pull up, and if they're even sure he's going to be here. If he ends up waiting here for nothing, surely Il-woo understands that things will get ugly. On cue, Yoon arrives, and I'm pretty sure it is Yang as he locks in. He starts stretching and releasing aura with a slight smile. He is also sweating nervously, saying that this is amazing. It's the first time his sixth sense has reacted so violently. It's always just been some vague intuition, but now it's currently screaming in his head, telling him that if he doesn't want to die, he needs to run away from this dude immediately. Yoon then stops walking and asks him why he's here, confused. It turns out it is none other than Young. Young is a bit taken aback, but recognizes his voice. Yoon asks what he's doing here, and Young starts to smile, asking if he's the one who's been going around bodying them. He guesses he's still just going around finding fun things to do. He recalls A's words about how the bait guild has some kind of backing, and he says that now that he thinks about it, Yusong is really rich, and he doesn't want to think that he's the one doing it. He points his blade at him, asking if he is also part of this shitty guild while releasing killing intent. Yusong says nah, that he doesn't want to be lumped in with these trashy delinquents, as he's going to hurt his feelings, asking if he takes him for somebody that low. Yun laughs, questioning what Young is doing there. Young says he surely knows, pointing to one of the back guild members and stating that it's their guild master, a guy with nothing but his pride. Still, he got on his knees and begged, which was highly entertaining. Yoon admits he forgets the guy's a freak, and says he has no business with him, so Young shouldn't bother him, they can hang out later when they have time. He starts picking his nose, mentioning it's not like he has his contact info anyway. Just then, Song bursts in for a surprise attack. As it comes down, Yun turns and blocks it with his bare fist, asking what Song is doing. Yang laughs, saying he'd be disappointed if they just left, and Yin questions if that's really going to happen as they begin brawling. And their weapons clash, and Yun tells Yang he won't go easy on him just because they know each other, he's serious about killing him. Song starts shaking, but he looks excited, saying that's exactly what he wanted. Yun activates Titan's strength and Wayne's secret technique, raising his sword and thrusting it forward. Song sidesteps, but it still grazes his cheek, and he asks how much of a monster Yoon has become. They trade blows, with Yang laughing, saying this is the best and clearly enjoying it. Yoon, on the other hand, thinks this fighting is a real pain in the ass and would prefer to finish it quickly. They exchange more blows, and Yoon, ever the battle junkie, mentions how it's been a while since he got to fight properly. Yang laughs, saying he could tell from Yoon's expression that he was having fun too, noting that the fight is just starting. Then, Il-woo runs in, yelling for them to die, and they both look over, wondering if he's okay. Il-woo thinks that if he contributes here, he might become an executive, only for Yang to instantly whack his head clean off with his mace. Yoon is shocked as blood sprays from the mace, and Il-woo's corpse lands on the ground. Yang sighs, expressing annoyance that they were in the middle of something fun, questioning why Il-woo interrupted them. Yoon mentions this proves they're not on the same side, although he didn't expect Yang to just kill the guy like that. Yang sighs again, saying it killed the vibe because he really wanted a proper fight, but he doesn't want Yun to hate him. Yun shrugs it off, saying he already really hates him. Young asks if Yoon knows what kind of man Yui-hun is, to which Yoon replies that he's a... Young explains that Yui-hun is the illegitimate child of the Mo conglomerate chairman, which is why he can act so recklessly with his followers. Yoon wonders what trash drama this plot came from, and asks why Young is telling him this, saying if it's a warning, he doesn't care. He walks away, saying that if what Young said could stop him, he never would have started in the first place, and suggests Young should just go home and sleep. Young places a hand on his shoulder, insisting Yoon should finish listening because whatever plan he has, he wants in on it. He's eager to see the delinquent really pissed off. The next day at the back guild, it unfolds just as Young predicted. Yui-hun is losing it, smashing his keyboard after losing his 8th ranked game in a row, even pounding it into the desk despite it already being broken. He complains that everyone there is useless and not a single person can do their job. The vice guild leader awkwardly stands by as it was probably his ADC who fed Yui-hun. Eventually, Yui-hun exhales, calming down a bit, and tells the vice guild leader to gather all the guild members by 8:0 tomorrow. The vice guild leader responds he doesn't know how many can make it, but Yui-hun shouts that he doesn't care if they're sick or if their family just died, they need to be there. He insists the vice guild leader should understand. The vice guild leader explains that many have quit and some have cut all contact with the guild. Yui-hun retorts they could just hold their families hostage and force those who don't want to listen to comply. The vice guild leader continues, saying the guild's atmosphere is tense, and many can sense that things are unstable. They don't know how people will react if they're told to attack their own guild members again. Yui-hun starts to lose it but tries to control his anger. His phone vibrates, and he picks it up, expressing that he feels like he sees an unknown number, and a man on the line states it seems like Yui-hun is in a difficult situation. Yui-hun starts smiling with relief, thinking his situation might resolve more easily than he expected. In a forum about the back guild, people talk about how they're going through a tough time and must be down bad while clearing farm dungeons. Young observes it seems what they're doing is having an effect, noting they had only spent a week destroying dungeons. Yoon agrees, saying it's about time to wrap things up as they walk away from yet another dungeon. Young expresses disappointment, saying he was having fun, and asks about the plan for the finale. Yoon thinks it over and decides it's fine, since it's him, then leans in close to whisper something to Yang. Song looks a little freaked out, asking if Yun is right in the head again, the pot calling the kettle black. Meanwhile, Yui-hun holds up a letter, stating that tomorrow evening at 6:0, he's being told where to go, making sure to bring the entire guild. It's from a man called the Phantom Thief. Yui-hun crumples up the paper, saying he finally wants to meet face to face. We see him and his guild members standing in front of the dungeon, and Yui-hun declares he'll see the man's face today and separate his skin from his bones. Some guild members protest, saying they didn't want to come but had no choice because they know what happens to those who don't show up. Amid their chatter, Yui Hun is incredulous. He has to handle something this important with such a useless crew. If only he had managed to convince that bastard last time. We see him on the phone with the man he thought could help fix the situation. The guy says he contacted Yui Hun to see if he needs a helping hand, and Yui Hun thinks this could be his golden ticket since he only needed to ask for help from a bastard like Yang. He didn't have contact with this guy, but the fact that he reached out is a miracle. Yui Hun laughs, stating the timing was perfect, and promises to reward the man handsomely if he helps him, claiming his father will also back him up. The dude asks what he means by asking who he thinks is backing who, as it seems he still doesn't know his place. He tells him that he changed his mind and won't intervene in this matter. Yui Hun asks why and wonders what he did so wrong. The dude tells him to cling to his mighty father instead. Yui Hun starts burning the paper in his hand, saying that the dude is acting like a damn child and worse than Yang. He can't wait to see how long they will continue to act arrogantly. The scene shifts to the same dude's office, where he's on the phone, saying it seems all the bait members have gathered in one location, and that Yui Hun is at the end of his rope. The dude's coworker or friend, it's unclear, which says they are still allies at lead on the surface, asking if it's fine for him not to send reinforcements. We meet a man named Choi Min, who says it's okay, and there's nothing more to gain from supporting that trash. The other dude mentions that if he happens to die, his father won't sit still. Min glances at the dude while unleashing his aura, wrapping around the dude's throat and lifting him into the air. He asks if he's saying he needs to crawl all because of one old man. The dude says no, and apologizes. Min sighs and releases the dude back onto the couch, where he starts gasping for air. He tells him to continue what he was working on before, and find another financial backer. We jump to the dungeon called the Dupin Forest, which is a D rank. As they head inside, Yoon asks what time it is, and he's told it's 3:06. Yui Hun gets annoyed, saying the dude didn't even show up after calling him here. He doesn't want this to be a waste of time and tells everyone to keep their guard up, as they don't know how many enemies there will be or if they might set up an ambush. One of the dudes points forward, asking what that is, as something is hauling absolute cheeks toward him. Yui Hun and the other guild members wonder what exactly it is, but then we see it's none other than Yun, laughing like an absolute maniac with a horde of wolves behind him, looking absolutely psychotic. Yui Hun and the rest are surprised, wondering if maybe he has a twin. Yui Hun starts to sweat nervously, still trying to grasp the situation. Yun tells him it's been a while and hopes he's been well because he has a gift for him. Yui Hun puts his hand up, and we see a little wolf cub that looks super adorable in it. Everybody else has the same reaction, saying that pup is very cute. Yun then gets into a picture stance and yeets the absolute piss out of the thing, saying he brought him a present. The rest ask how he could do such a thing, and the bald guy drops his spear, saying he's going to catch it as it comes. He sticks his hands out, and the pup is crying. The guy catches it and starts smiling, saying he did it and that it'll be okay because daddy will protect it. Everybody else is also infatuated with how cute it is and ask how a bad bastard like him could do something so evil. Yui Hun tells him to shut up, as they don't understand how bad this situation is, because what Yun has done is kidnap multiple pups, which are what he has in his bag, and he's brought every single one of their parents chasing after them, meaning this is going to end horribly for them. Yun then throws the bag up into the air, saying he has more gifts for them, and there are more in the bag. When they look up, they see the bag tipping over, causing the pups to start raining down. While they're distracted, Yun leaps forward, raises his sword into the air, and swings down at Yui Hun, who backpedals. The hella angry wolves also appear behind, jumping over him toward Yui Hun's group. Yun puts up a fire shield to stop one wolf's bite, and then notices something as Yun runs by, telling them good luck. Yui Hun puts up another shield to block an attack, and as soon as it starts to dissipate, he realizes this is bad. He says the wolves are tough enough because they can turn invisible, but now Yun has thrown their formation into disarray, and is making light work of the guild members. He starts shaking with anger, telling everyone to retreat and that they need to head for the entrance. As they start running, they thank Lord they were in the back line instead of up front, saying they're quitting this guild tomorrow. But as soon as they reach the exit, Yang sticks his head in, calling out to them. They wonder what's going on, as he pulls out his mace, raises it into the air, and of course starts whacking their asses. We see Yusong's mace soaked in blood. He's finally made his way out of the Portaland. The rest are stunned, but of course, being the freak he is, he's enjoying every minute of it. Yui Hun watches this from afar, wondering what he's doing, asking if he has betrayed them or not. He looks around and realizes that his plan hasn't worked out, but there must be some way for him to escape as the invisible wolves tear apart his guild. He looks to the other side, and it's none other than Young and Yun making light work over there. He begins to think about how to get out of this, shaking in anger. He says if it's come to this, he's going to have to use his last resort. His hand starts glowing with a fiery aura. We see Yun stab his sword directly into a dude's throat before forcing it out the other side. He clicks his tongue, saying there's no end to these dudes, and that it feels like he's fighting cockroaches. Then he starts to get get annoyed. Yui-hun screams his name, and when Yun turns, he sees him on fire, running at him, saying if it's all over anyways, he's at least taking him down with him as he uses a skill called self-immolation. Yun sticks his hand up to block it as we see a massive explosion follow immediately after, catching multiple guild members. Yui-hun says the skill endangers his life, and its firepower is excessive, but even with this, there's no way Yun got out of it unscathed. We see him surprised as Yun's hand starts to emerge from the fire, grabbing the dude's head even though he's burning alive. Yui-hun is still confused, asking how this is possible. Yun tells him to stop exaggerating. This much is nothing, just a little warm, calling him a dumbass. He then kicks him directly in the gut, causing him to spit up blood and almost pass out, launching him backward into a wolf's corpse. Yui-hun starts holding onto his stomach, while Yun tells him to sit there and watch, as he'll be the last to die. He can't let him go so easily, after everything he went through, and he should make sure he enjoys watching his guild fall apart, as Yun makes his way back to fighting, cutting the rest into pieces. Yui-hun laughs, going completely psychotic, saying it's over, all because he messed with the wrong dude. His guild has fallen apart. He continues to sit there laughing, having a full mental breakdown while the rest of his guild is getting slaughtered. He can't do anything but sit there helplessly. After a bit of fighting, we see monocrystals laid out along the floor, along with the corpses of the guild members and wolves. Of course, Yui-hun is still just sitting there laughing because he's completely checked out and had a mental breakdown. Wai-song gets close, wondering why he's going schizo. Yun says he's probably having a good dream. Of course, Yui-hun is just coping with the situation, saying he's finished, but then he starts to snap back to reality, saying wait a minute, there's no way he is finished, and he starts shaking. Yun notices something as he's even starting to cry. Yui-hun says he can't die like this. He was an illegitimate child and grew up being treated like complete trash. His siblings treated him like a stranger and never cared about him to begin with. They also pulled him into their fight for a role he never even wanted and constantly tried to keep him in check. His father sympathized with him and supported him plentifully, but to them even that was just another excuse to tear him apart. But one day the world changed. The tutorial started. Dungeons and Awakeners appeared, and the world began to once again run on strength alone. That's when he had a gut feeling that this was his chance to turn the tides. We then see a slash come through on his neck, and before Yui-hun realizes what happens, his head is floating through the air and starts rolling on the ground. Yun sighs, asking why villain bastards always have the longest monologues. Wai-song tells him that he should have at least listened to his words, and Yun says, nah, he ain't listening to all that. He then puts his weapon away, thanking him for helping out even though it wasn't his problem. Yong says that it was fun, so he doesn't care, and asks him how it was, saying the feeling of finally getting his long-awaited revenge. Yoon says that he's not too sure, and Young says he's heard that vengeance leaves him feeling hollow, asking if it's something like that. He says, not at all. He only killed those who deserved it, and if he had to make a comparison, it feels like he just dug out a huge clump of earwax in one go. It's not really anything amazing, but it does kind of feel refreshing. Wai-song says that was one of the worst comparisons he's ever heard, and bro should be banned from making them. But Yoon blows on his finger that he just stuck into his ear, asking what they want to do about the items that Gu dropped and if they should just sell them and go half and half. Young says that he doesn't really need money, so no, he doesn't know. Yun says in that case he'll take them and do it himself, as money is something that he's never been obsessed over either because he got a lot from clearing dungeons. However, this incident made him realize that he can't protect everything with just his strength and a little amount of money, so he needs to gather as much as he can and end up making his own faction. As they head outside and the gate starts to vanish, Wai-song says, well, this is officially over now. But Yoon seems to be thinking about something and calls out to him, asking what he would do if he told him he wanted to make a guild. Before he can even finish, Young says he's in. Yun says that he should have at least let him finish his sentence. Young says that if Big Bro makes a guild, it'll be really fun, as that's what his intuition tells him. Yun says intuition my ass, calling him a freak, saying that he never told him he'd let him in. Young says that he knows, he was just trying to scout him, and they continue their banter. We get a little bit of fourth wall narration, saying that at this time, nobody knew that the small guild that these two men would form as a joke would become the most well-known guild in Korea, but obviously not in a good way with these two psychos running it. It jumps to a giant office building, and we hear an old man named Sangu saying this is not what they promised. He yells at none other than Jin, saying that he told him he would take responsibility for his son, asking how this is not a breach of contract. M smirks, asking what he means by breach, saying his joke has gone too far, as he has no idea what he's talking about. Sangu is pissed, asking if he's really playing dumb in this situation, as it's been over a week since he lost contact with his son and his guild members. Menin says, so what? Which surprises Sangu, and he says that he took a piece of trash with no ability and made him the master of a major guild, and that he's already done his fair share. Sangu starts to get pissed, telling his men to attack and kill him. As they all leap towards Menin, he starts to release his aura, and of course it's the tentacle things he shot out before. They wrap around everybody's throats and start lifting them into the air as they gasp for air. He then stands up, calling out to Sangu, saying they clearly had an agreement and he was fulfilling his end without any problems, asking what's with this underhanded action. Sangu sits there shaking in fear, and Menin tells him that if he does something something like this again, he won't let it go, asking if he understands. Sangu says he does, but is clearly terrified. Menin smiles, releasing his aura as everybody starts to regain their breath. He waves him off, saying that he's glad he understands and to deposit the money by today as promised. But it does make him pretty curious, asking who managed to bring down Yui Hun. The bait guild ended up disappearing, and the sudden disappearance of a major guild sparked multiple rumors and horror stories. Of course, the media and forums went up in a roar for a while, as this was a time of sudden change. After a while, the bait guild slowly became forgotten amidst all of the other emerging talents and guilds. It jumps to a fancy house, and we hear Y-Song saying that's good, and at least they won't be tailed. Yun says there won't be any problem, as he killed everybody who annoyed him and he leveled up from the battle. They also disposed of all of the stolen goods through Yang's connections, and he's getting treated to some gas food. Y-Song says that means everything went well, asking what part of it he thinks is unfair. Yun is shaking, saying that the problem is he's got a new title and it's called the Ruthless Household Destroyer. It's because of what he did to the wolves. The title states that the holder will evoke instinctive fear in others, and also gives him +2 strength. He puts his chopsticks down, saying the effective titles that aren't equipped are still half effective, and he's already stressed enough because of his appearance, and this is just going to cause even more misunderstandings. Yang laughs, saying there's no misunderstanding about him being a vicious person, and there's not much difference anyway, so don't worry. Yun's phone begins to ring, and we see it's none other than Ihun. He says that the monster has thick skin, and he loses based on weight classes, but he always finds an answer because he's an intellectual, and that his hammer is the only thing he needs to win. Bro did not just call himself smart. After a bit, some guys are in the dungeon saying they've been hearing monster screams for a while and maybe somebody's hunting. More than that, they should think about what's right in front of them as they see a girl holding a bow, looking wary of the situation. One of the dudes says this is why he likes dungeons, and the other dude asks if he hears that strange sound. His friend asks what he means, and he says he told him not to worry about someone else while hunting. We see Yun dragging the hammer, saying something about smell. They turn, wondering what the hell is going on as he's finally made his way right behind them. He says he can smell it, the smell of some weak-ass third-rate criminal that he can beat the shit out of. They wonder what his deal is, and what the hell he's dragging. As he slowly gets closer, he raises it up into the air, and they realize this isn't good, as he smacks the ceiling, exploding it. Debris starts to fly out everywhere, and they put their hands up to block it, and he's still trying to brute force it. They ask what the deal with this nut job is, saying it doesn't matter how he swings something like that, the space is too narrow for it. But of course, the ceiling starts to give out, and the dude looks up to see it. Yun manages to scrape the ceiling away, slamming the hammer straight down into the floor in front of them, proving that dude wrong instantly. They all stand there, readying their weapons. Yun sighs, saying of course it's heavy, so it's going to be impractical to use as his main weapon. He decides to put it away for now, shoving it into his inventory. They sit there, confused as hell. One of the guys starts laughing, saying that he was wondering what was up with him when he showed up, suddenly showing off his strength, but it seems like he doesn't understand the situation. The guy then leaps off the floor, dashing forward, saying that disarming himself in front of a group of people is just asking to die. But of course, the dude flies in only to catch a hit in the face. As it turns out, it wasn't even a punch. Yun just slapped this dude. His head starts to ring as he falls to the floor, fading in and out of consciousness. His boys look at him worried. Yun then picks him up by the hair, and he looks terrified. Yun starts smiling super peacefully, telling the rest to give him everything they've got. They start calling him crazy and decide that instead of complying, they'll fight back, charging at him all together. He says he can't believe they're attacking him despite the hostage, and he tells the dude that it looks like he wasted his life. He asks the guy his name, and the dude tells him that his name is Gusik. Yun drops the dude's sword, telling Gusik that this is for the best. Then he starts palming the dude's nuts, popping them. The dude makes a pain face. Yun says that he'll make sure to get revenge for him. The spear guy, who is leading the charge, is surprised as Yun is using this dude as a weapon, calling it the Gushi attack. He hits another guy in the face, but poor Gusik just lost his family jewels. Once they see their friend fall to the floor, they stop moving, looking down at him confused. Yun's new weapon might be broken because it's leaking. Yun says the impact didn't feel bad. He flips him over, telling the rest to come at him, and he'll take them on with his new weapon, the battering ram. They're all surprised and start shaking in fear, telling him not to get any closer like out of some horror movie. They stand there like deer in headlights, only to helplessly get beaten by their homie. One of them screams, saying that their lips touched. Rip. The woman from earlier just stands there, witnessing this. After Yun defeats them all, she stands there. He guesses it was because they were a D-ranked clear party that it took longer than he expected. The woman then calls out to him and bows, thanking him for helping her. She says thanks to him, she didn't meet a terrible fate. He says it's nothing big, and beating them up on its own was quite fun, telling her to raise her head. He didn't recognize her before, but it is none other than S.A., she introduces herself, asking for his name. He says she doesn't have to be so polite. She then calls him Sir, asking what she must do to become as strong as him. She is highly determined, happened. He's just caught off guard that she's being genuine. The narrator comes back, saying this was a historic moment when South Korea's worst troublemakers were united, though it would be a while before they realized that. He asks if she's talking about becoming stronger, saying that it's only if she tries hard and puts in effort. She says that if they're talking about effort, she's put in a lot. He says that not all effort is equal. She has to be willing to die for it, quite literally. She thinks about it, then he says it's a little weird for him, someone who revives when he dies, to say that. He tells her to be careful on her way back and do as she'd like with those guys. As he walks away, he turns the corner, asking if she can even leave by herself, and Essay says that she can't. He says normally people would ask for help in these cases, so he says that he would like to help her, but he can't leave right now as he came here to clear the whole dungeon. She says in that case, would it be okay if she accompanied him? He's surprised, asking if it's because of what he said earlier about dying, and to forget it was just a figure of speech. She says it's not because of that. She knows her place very well. She'll follow him as silently as she possibly can, and mine mana stones, and she will not be a nuisance to him. Of course, all of the stones will be his. He tells her it's going to be dangerous, but she says she can protect herself. He thinks about it and says, sure, just to follow him. As they make their way forward, they see a whole group of monsters dead on the floor as Yoon has just finished murdering them. She says he did well, and that she'll do her job now. She pulls out her knife, walking over to their corpses, cutting them open, pulling out the mana stones. He says it looks like she is skilled enough to protect herself, just like she said, wondering if she has a stealth skill, because when combat started, she fell back and occasionally supported with her bow, and she never got in his way. She even takes care of the mana stones he normally leaves behind because he can't be bothered, and that this is going to make his life a lot easier. He asks her what she wants to do now, saying with the energy he's feeling, the boss room is up ahead and it could be really dangerous. She tells him she's already resolved herself, and she'll follow him until the end, but then a message tells him that the dungeon's main core has been destroyed, so the portal to the outside has been opened. They're both surprised, and he wonders if someone beat him to it, but he says there's no way because he still senses the boss's energy, and it's hella ominous from down the corridor. He tells her that this is a dungeon break. This is Korea's very first D-rank dungeon break. On the news, they are covering it, saying that in a Seoul suburb, 10 dungeons opened at once and a monster wave occurred. It is the February 8th dungeon incident, and is the third occurrence nationally. However, unlike the previous two incidents, this wave was artificially created by terrorists, according to professional analysis. A man runs in calling out to the association president, and we see the man responding. It is none other than Choi Dong-woo have heard him mentioned before, but we are now formally introduced, and he says he's finished his preparations. The man tells him that, according to the report that just came in, there is a D-rank dungeon among the ones that broke. Dong-woo asks for the location, and is told that it's the Research Institute. Dong-woo says, of all places it had to be that one, adding that it wasn't cleared because it's tricky, and that's going to bite him in the ass. He asks if there are any major guilds available, and the man replies that there's only the Hangel Guild, but their main members are all on a business trip. Dong-woo says to gather 50 elite members immediately, and they'll go to Suwon. The rest will go to other dungeons depending on their teams. Suwon is where the institute is located. The Dongan Guild Sen asks about the situation, and Ihun tells her that Dong-woo will be going himself to the Research Institute with his elite members. She worries they will be late, and asks if there are any guilds that can defend until then. Ihun says that apart from the Hangul Guild, only smaller ones are available. However, there is one talent who is eliminating monsters quickly. She asks more about him, and he mentions that he has a big sword, is jacked, and his face is a mess. She immediately recognizes who he's talking about, and starts smiling, saying there won't be any problems over there. Then we see him in the street, slaughtering his own kindred, the Friendly Fire. Everybody else is just surprised that he's killed that many on his own, wondering if this is really the level they should be at. One of the men says they survived thanks to him, thanking him, and asking how to repay him. He replies, here, which confuses the guy, who asks what he means. Yun glares at him, saying to get the hell out of here if he doesn't want to die, and to run quickly. The guy asks what he means as the area starts to distort. Yun explains it's because the crack isn't closed yet, which means the boss monster is still there. He tells them that the boss still isn't here, and if they stay, they're going to die a dog's death. They're surprised, but one man decides he doesn't think the same. He steps forward, telling Yun to wait a minute. Regardless of appearances, they are all talented and can help a little. Yun calls out to the dude, asking how many Kiras he's killed so far. The guy hesitates, and Yun gets right in his face, asking if he's ever even killed one, saying that even if they are all here, they'll just be a nuisance. If they understand, they should go help the civilians evacuate. The dude starts to freeze up, trying to explain himself while everybody else in the back wonders what Yun's deal is, saying that even if he's strong, he's acting like a jerk. One of the guys glances over, seeing that Yun's face is filled with rage, and he laughs nervously, saying they should probably do what he says. They all leave, which is what Yun wanted. He sighs, glad they did it, but S stands there calling out to him. She doesn't really know what to say, so she looks off to the side nervously. He tells her she can surely handle it, and he's talking about sniping. She asks what he means, and he says that he's going to count on her to cover him, and she should find a place to hide on her own, asking if she can do that. She's surprised that he's giving her the chance, but says yes. Back at the rift, something steps out, but it's not alone. There are multiple of them. They're all kind of Mira hybrids, and we see there are 3 monsters. Yun asks what the hell this is and jokes if it's the 4 heavenly kings, but realizing there are only 3, he changes it. Instinctively, he senses that each one of them is as strong as the ogre he fought earlier, and with the boss behind them, this is definitely not going to be easy. As it starts to emerge, its jaw rattles as it laughs, floating up into the sky above the other 3 monsters. The rift then slowly starts to close, and the Lich says that these buildings sure are strange. Yun is caught off guard that a monster spoke, and the Lich looks down at him, asking if he's really intending to stand in its way solo. Yun says, "Of course I am." As he reaches into his inventory, pulling out his giant hammer, he slams it forward, turning one of the monster's corpses into a pile of meat chunks. He says he's going to smash the Lich's head and turn it into a puzzle. The Lich gets a little annoyed, calling him arrogant, saying that looking at his body, he seems quite usable. Yun says enough with the yapping, asking if they can just have a duel between themselves as leaders, and set the minions aside to fight him mano a mano. The Lich doesn't hesitate, saying nah. Yun spits in his hand, saying he wasn't expecting anything anyways. He starts gripping the hammer tightly and raises it, telling the Lich that he's coming in as he runs forward toward the monsters. They retaliate by charging in as a full-on brawl is about to begin. Yun takes a deep breath and yells, activating his lion's roar, which stuns all 3 heavenly kings, stopping them in their tracks. Yun leaps into the air, saying for now he's just going to kill them, but specifically, he's going to start with this turtle thing as he smacks it in the head. He raises the hammer, beating the hell out of this thing over and over while the Lich just stands there watching. But it seems the Lich is finding the situation amusing, wondering if it's just raw strength, since it can't feel any mana from Yun. The Lich thinks it would be a waste to kill Yun, slowly raising its hand, saying it plans to keep him alive and make him a slave. Back to the turtle thing, we see Yun give it one more heavy hit. Though its head was thought to have exploded, it turns out only its helmet gets cracked and flies off, revealing the same goblin face we saw earlier as it falls backward. Yun lands back on his feet. His legs are shaking as he mutters that this thing is way too damn heavy. Back to the Lich. The reason it raised its hand was to activate mind control, shooting out a red aura directly toward Yun. For Yun, we see it hit him, and his mind starts to get really clouded, at least based on his pupils. The Lich thinks its mind control has completely taken effect already as the aura envelops him. The Lich declares that Yun is now fully within its grasp as Yun slowly lowers his hammer. The Lich welcomes him, glad he became its slave, and tells him to bow down and prove his loyalty. Yun then opens his mouth and slowly raises his hand, which surprises the Lich. It's none other than Yun giving it the finger, saying hell no and that he was just messing with it. Of course, he has the ring that resists mind control. The Lich starts to figure out the situation, spotting the ring, and saying that Yun must have defended himself with an item. What a shame, as it intended to keep him intact. The Tiger Man then charges forward with a punch. It's too fast for Yun to dodge, so instead, he uses his Anria Injus skill to harden his face, tanking the hit but getting sent flying into a nearby store, causing it to explode. The other monster, along with a tiger, starts making their way toward the store. Suddenly, an arrow flies in from behind, hitting the tiger in the head. The Lich is surprised that Yun has a companion, but obviously, it's not at a level it needs to be concerned about as the Tiger Man just brushes the arrow off. Yun calls out to S, saying that was some great timing. When the Lich looks back down, Yun is already in a crouching stance. He dashes off with his hammer in hand, tightening his grip as he makes a heavy swing at the tiger, saying that's the perfect place to hammer in a nail, and he's talking about the arrow. He does exactly that, lodging it completely through the tiger's skull. It's unclear if it went out the other side, but the tiger dies falling over, and now that we get a better view, the hammer is absolutely massive. The last monster, the snake dude, whips its tail forward, and when Yun turns, the tail stabs him directly through the chest. Gritting his teeth, he drops the hammer but grabs the tail, surprising the snake. He turns, lifts it into the air, and judo throws it straight into the concrete. While the snake is reeling from the attack, Yun reaches into his inventory, pulls out his sword, and charges directly at it, not giving it time to react. When the snake turns, all it sees is Yun with his sword raised, grinning at it. He absolutely rips the thing to shreds. After a while, the sound of his blade stabbing stops and we see it dripping blood. The Lich seems impressed, as Yun stands over the Snake Man's remains, clearly having taken out all his frustration on it, wiping some blood from his face. Yun mutters that it looks like there's only one left. Then he turns back to the Lich, calling it Bailey. The Lich stares down at Yun, telling him that he's bluffing, asking how someone with no remaining mana plans on going up against him. Yun locks in, saying that it looks like it actually noticed. For sure, he doesn't have enough mana right now, and his regeneration is also reaching its limit. More than anything, he doesn't have the means to strike it down while it's floating. He doesn't even have the strength to jump or throw his weapon. If he could use his strength, it would be a different story, but we see his legs are shaking. He then feels his heart pulsating as if something had its hands on it. Blood starts to pour down his nose, and his head starts to spin as he starts coughing up actual chunks of blood. His legs give out as he slips and falls to the floor, turning back to look up at the Lich, asking what the hell it did. The Lich says that it has started to take effect, asking if he thought the stab earlier was just a simple melee attack, since it was planning to use that to eat away at his insides. There was no reason not to use poison. He tells Yun that he no longer has any chance of victory, and he'll give him the antidote if he surrenders and becomes his slave. Yun starts to laugh and says nah, and he already told it that he's going to break its skull and make a puzzle with it. His eyes start to light up with his red aura, and he says that he's going to use the remaining mana he has to cure the poison and gamble it all on his last resort. Of course, he's talking about his sword's ability, which is Berserker, increasing his strength and vitality by 1.5 times for 5 minutes, but he has severe after effects. He starts to release even more aura than he had when he was in peak condition and tells the Lich to get its ass down here. Even if he has to go to the afterlife, he'll take responsibility and at least bring it with him. But then we hear Donggu telling him that he's done enough. When Yun turns, he sees him walking toward him. He says he doesn't know who he is, but he's done something incredible, and that he, the talented association president, will take care of it from here. Yun recognizes him as the tutorial graduate and president of the association. Dongwu tells him that he has serious injuries and to rest for a bit. Yun tells him to wait as he can still fight. But of course, that's not the truth, as he immediately feels hella fatigue set in and drops to his knees. He's a little annoyed, saying that he almost had it, and falls down to the ground sighing, saying that he also appeared in a uselessly cool way. It jumps to a hospital as Yun opens his eyes. He sees Ahune sitting there beside him. Ahune asks him if he's fully awake. He says he can't believe he sees her shitty face as soon as he wakes up, and she claps back, saying that she can't believe he's saying shitty words as soon as he opens his eyes. This was the actual dialogue. She asks why he didn't just die since the hospital fees are expensive. He asks why she's saying that to her brother and then asks about the dungeon break, asking what happened. She says she doesn't know the details but heard it went well, and that she was super surprised when she received a call about his hospitalization and came in only to find Dongwu, whom she recognized from TV. Yoon also thinks about it and recalls the card he got from Sunwoo, before saying that he doesn't feel like he owes him this time. Ahune tells him not to push himself as she's worried about his unique ability, because who's to say that the next death won't just be permanent? He says that she just had to say that, and it feels like she's jinxing it, asking if she thinks that he dies because he wants to. Every time he does, his level gets cut down, and it feels like he then notices something as she looks hella worried about him. He realizes that she's probably right and scratches his head, telling her that he'll try. It jumps back to the talented association, specifically Dongwoo's room, and we hear Sunwoo ask if he knows Yun. Dongwoo says no, and recalls that he saw Sunwoo's name on the report mentioning him. Sunwoo asks why he personally evacuated him, and even paid for his hospital fees. Dongwoo laughs, saying that he witnessed the birth of a new hero, so when else will he get the honor of helping him out if not now? He has some dumb memory of Yad saying he was going to defeat the Lich. This is not what happened. Sunwoo asks him how it went in the end, and Dongwoo says that the Lich ran away. Back at the hospital, we see a doctor saying that according to the results, there are no issues and that a talent's recovery rate sure is quite something, as he is now being discharged. Yoon says he told her yesterday that he was free to find a go that he talks too much, and that the association president paid for the fees anyway. He asks her if she knows how much it costs for him to take a break, and we hear a nurse saying that she told somebody before there was no patient named Yun. When he looks over, we see a guy talking to the receptionist. Yoon tells his sister to go first, and the dude double checks that he's not here. The lady says if he's already been discharged, they can't inquire about where he is. The guy's wondering if he was late. Yun asks who he is. When the guy turns, he sees him and asks him if he's Yun. Yun says yes, and that he heard his name. The guy says one moment as he reaches into his coat, pulling out a card showing that he is from the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, and his name is Sheno. Yun reads his card, asking about the special talented management team, asking why the government's even looking for him. A bit later, we see a steak on a grill. Yoon asks if he's really okay with this, saying that it's pretty expensive. Tel says of course, and there's no issue with it. Yoon says he was wondering where his taxes went, and he guesses this is how he gets his return. Then he gets serious, asking the dude what he wants, and if he wants him to work for the government. Tel says of course, but they won't force him. He's just making an offer. Yoon asks if that means he'd be a civil servant, asking what is so good about that in the first place. Tel says to start with, he won't be a regular civil servant, and that their organization is dedicated to preparing for the rapidly changing future, as that is what his team is. The government has already judged that it is not possible to control the talented, as the number of them increases every day, it feels like. But of course, it's impossible to control them with force, and they didn't want to burn any bridges with them. Because of that, the government has decided to build build a relationship based on helping one another out by supporting them as much as possible. Yoon says he sees but is really just judging this guy for how badly he's cooking the meat. Yoon asks what's in it for him. Tel replies that the biggest benefit will be, of course, money. They'll offer him enough cash that he'll never have to worry about doing whatever he wants. If there's ever an issue with his personal safety, they'll always take care of his family and give him treatment fit for a person of merit. Yoon says the conditions seem good, which means he'd have a lot of work to do. Tel agrees, but adds they won't ask anything unfair of him. He can keep his current lifestyle and only move when they ask for his help. Yoon thinks about it and says it's not that bad. Tel then informs him that both Dongwoo and Sen are already cooperating with him. He asks if that means Yoon could have a side gig, and Yoon decides, why not, back near the research institute. Yoon's walking back to get his car, saying he completely forgot it was there, and wonders if it's even okay after all the chaos. Suddenly, he hears someone call out to him. When he looks up, it's none other than S. He messes up her name, calling her Swa. She corrects him, and he says, my bad. She hands him a bag, telling him to take this. It's full of the gems from when she helped him. She says she's late giving this to him, and planned to do it earlier, but he got carried off after fainting. He tells her there's no way she didn't know he'd come back here, yet she still waited for him, she says. Of course. And he can't believe she's so honest. He tells her she could have just kept it, but she insists she can't break a promise with her benefactor. He waves it off, saying he won't refuse her, and thanks her for her consideration. He then asks her where the hell his car is. She calls out to him again, and when he turns, hits a deep bow, asking if he would please take her as an apprentice. He's completely confused. The scene shifts to that night in the countryside, where we see an F-rank dungeon called Gorka Village. The Lich is talking, saying he didn't think the humans would corner him to this extent. We hear a familiar voice saying, this must have been where he was hiding. It's none other than Mian. He walks forward, saying that the title of D-rank dungeon would cry if it could see him like this. We learn the Lich's name is Dean. Dean asks who he is, and Min tells him not to worry. He's not his enemy. He mentions he's the one who liberated him, and asks Dean if he'd like to join hands with him. The scene jumps back to Yong's estate, where we see Sa introducing herself, telling him to take care of her. He's just as confused, staring at her. He thought Yoon had no friends, so he wouldn't be able to find a guild member. Yoon gets angry, asking what he means and why he wouldn't have friends. He has at least two, right? Then he wonders if he even has a single one. He quickly changes the subject, saying that he won the bet and is going to pay for the meal like he promised. Yang says he pays anyway, agreeing he lost, but she has to pass a test if she wants to join the guild. It's fine if they enter a dungeon. She agrees, saying there's no issue with that. Yoon can tell she just wants to go on a hunt. They head to a D-rank dungeon called Harpy's Cliff, and sure enough, that's what's inside. We see a harpy screeching while flying through the air, looking down at Yoon and the gang as there are harpy corpses below them. Sa raises her bow and releases an arrow that flies through the air, hitting the harpy straight in the head. It falls down dead. Yusong says it's certainly nice to have a long-range damage dealer. It feels like a real party now. He asks Young if she passed the test or not. Young asks what he's talking about. Yoon mentions the test he wanted to do. He admits he kind of forgot about it, saying he knew it was only because he wanted to hunt. Sa then draws her blade and walks over to the corpses, saying she'll collect the mana stones. Yoon tells her she doesn't have to do it. It's just annoying work. She says it's okay, and she's doing it because she likes it. Yusong chimes in, saying he's on her side. They're worth something, so he shouldn't waste them. Yoon asks why he wouldn't have money and suggests it's better to just take the corpses. He asks Yusong if he collects mana stones, and Yusong says hell no because he's rich. Yoon then notices something and asks Young if she feels that too. Young asks what he means and starts to think about it. After a moment, she begins to feel it. They both start to lock in, and she wonders what they're doing. She sees Yoon with his eyes closed. He suddenly opens them, rearing his fist back and punching forward, hitting something in the air. Blood starts to fly, and the stealth breaks as it reveals a guy in a robe who falls over. The dude starts foaming at the mouth. He might have just killed this guy. Yoon asks what this is, and Young laughs, saying, that's some high-quality stealth. He's good at sensing, as he didn't feel anything until the guy got close. Since the dude didn't have any killing intent, it seems he wasn't trying to harm them. Yoon points out that doesn't mean he came here to do good deeds and smells something fishy. Yusong suggests it's possible that it's just an awakened person passing by, and that this is just pure violence. Yun tells him it's bad manners to approach someone in stealth while in a dungeon anyway, and he deserved what he got. Then it jumps back to him, signing the contract with Tel, who says it's now established, and they look forward to his work. Yoon agrees and asks Tel if there's anything he needs to do. Tel apologizes for asking, but mentions there is something he'd like to tell him beforehand, asking if he knows about the recent dungeon terrorism incidents. Yoon talks about how people are creating dungeon breaks. Tel confirms this and says they've caught the tail of the organization responsible and are tracking the head. Soon there will be plans for a massive attack led by the government, and they'll need his help. The dude wakes up, getting some gamer girl bathwater poured on him, and wonders what's going on. Yoon asks if he's finally awake. The dude questions why he's tied up and starts yelling, asking who they are and what they're doing. Then he starts to smell what was poured on him and asks what the hell it is. Yoon apologizes, saying they were going to use water but didn't have enough to drink, so they just used the piss from the harpy's bladder. His gamer girl bathwater joke turned out to be true. The guy calls him crazy, asking why he'd pour monster piss on someone and then starts vomiting in front of them. Yoon says it's now time for him to answer, crouching down to get to the dude's eye level. He says he knows it's him, the dungeon terrorist. The guy starts laughing, claiming that people call him a terrorist, but they don't understand how noble his goals are. Yoon retorts, noble or not, he just wants the dude to spill what he knows, and he'll let him go. The dude asks if Yoon really thinks that'll work and says he can torture or threaten him all he wants. No one can stop their cause. Later, it jumps to the end of the day, and the dude is crying with a swollen face, begging to tell Yoon everything to be released. Yoon thinks this guy lacks desperation and wants to break 3 or 4 more teeth. He starts pulling them out with his hands, and the guy screams. Outside the dungeon, we hear Tell asking Yoon if he really caught a terrorist. Yoon says yes while still holding the dude, who is begging for his life and asking to be saved from this monster. Tell points at him, asking why the guy's face looks like that. Yoon says he has no idea and suspects the harpies beat him up. Tell's men start dragging the dude away, and he thanks Yoon for his cooperation, saying they'll handle it from here. Yoon waves goodbye, finding out he meets Tell again. He asks if they know each other, and Tell replies they scouted him, but he declined immediately. Yoon finds it surprising that Tell isn't good at thinking things through. Tell then says he wants to discuss the details tomorrow since it's late and there are outsiders around. The next day at the office building, Tell puts down some coffee and informs Yoon that the terrorist's name is Jian Yongshik. His unique ability is stealth, and he seems to hold an important role in the organization. Yoon responds, okay, but I've already heard all of that. Tell mentions that thanks to Yoon, they've learned about the terrorist's headquarters. He explains they plan to lead a massive attack in 2 weeks. Yoon asks what kind of prep they need 2 weeks for, wondering why they don't just ransack it. Kel states that for the first time, a C-rank dungeon was cleared by China, asking if Yoon has heard the news. Yoon thinks he saw it mentioned somewhere. Kel continues, saying the conversation will be quick. The information hasn't been revealed to the media, but a total of 200 people participated in the clear, and half of them lost their lives. Yoon is surprised, and Tell says he should understand, having gone into a D-rank dungeon alone, the danger level of dungeons has been increasing exponentially. Yoon nods, agreeing that even a 1-rank increase needs several times as many members, but he wouldn't know since he usually goes solo. Tell explains that China's strategy relied on a human wave attack, which is why they failed. They had impressive numbers, but their average stats were terrible. That's why he wants to select a small number of elite members to clear the C-rank dungeon in Gangnam called Ben's Fortress. Yoon is surprised, asking if there's even a need to clear it since China already has the honor of being the first to clear a C-rank dungeon, and he can prevent it from opening by consistently destroying the core. He wonders what the point of clearing it is. Tell says Yoon is surprisingly perceptive. Yoon asks what he means by that, curious how he views him. Tell sips his coffee and puts it down, stating the problem is they've never managed to clear the normal core. At this rate, it'll open in less than 2 weeks, releasing monsters that can kill hundreds of talented people right in the middle of Seoul, an area filled with civilians. Yoon realizes this is bad, and Tell assures him they will prepare properly eventually. However, given the location and danger level, expert opinion suggests the damage will exceed expectations from a single dungeon collapse. Yoon acknowledges they seem to be in a crisis, and wonders if Tell is asking for his help during these busy times. Tell says yes, but due to some law he doesn't understand, it's impossible to participate in the raid alone, which is why they're asking him to create a guild. They know he usually prefers working solo, but maybe he can endure it this one time for their country and help them. They promise to take care of the troublesome paperwork and won't hesitate to support him. Yoon feels a bit caught off guard and sighs, saying that he was going to start a guild anyway, but since they're offering, he'll definitely take advantage of it. If you watch till the end, comment corn to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this.